playing nonstop in the apocalypse to level up. Welcome back, brave explorers of impossible worlds. We are excited to have you here to continue this odyssey together. Before we continue, everything you'll hear is pure fiction, so please don't try to replicate combat techniques at home. This wonderful story and all its rights belong to its brilliant original author. We are only the messengers of entertainment. Want another dose of adventure? Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single chapter, and if you can't wait, our Patreon has exclusive surprises you'll love. Chapter 26. What's up with these guys? Mutant County. At this moment, Lin Fan was in the desolate city. He parked his car, secured a good position, and began preparing for his beast hunting mission. If everything goes smoothly, leveling up to level 2 or even level 3 seems pretty good. The only downside to this cheat is that after reaching level 1, hunting ordinary red-blooded beasts becomes useless. If it were still useful, that would be great. He could take off in the shortest time, directly sweeping away the beasts, without needing to wait for level 1 beasts to appear. He constantly moved between shop rooftops, searching for traces of beasts. After a long time. Strange, the number of level 1 beasts doesn't seem to be as many as I imagined. Lin Fan frowned slightly, staring at the level 1 beast among the street's beast horde. This level 1 beast was among dozens of ordinary beasts, practically filing the street, while the other beasts lay on the ground resting, not moving, and unaware of Lin Fan on the rooftop. Oh well. Encountering one is already good enough. Why think about anything else? Lin Fan gripped the short spear, flames enveloping it, and hurled it with a mighty swift motion. With a whoosh, the spear pierced the head of a level 1 alien beast lying on the ground, fast asleep. The commotion instantly roused all the alien beasts. They scrambled to their feet, letting out low growls, their fierce eyes searching for Lin Fan on the rooftop. Without hesitation, the beasts swarmed forward. Some tried to climb up, but the shop floors were too high. Others darted into the shops, hoping to use that as a springboard to reach him. Evolution point +1, Lin Fan didn't waste time. He pulled his spear back, along with the beast's corpse. He quickly dug out the blood crystal, kicked the carcass away, and ran. Ordinary red-blooded alien beasts were worthless. Hunting them was a waste of energy. As he ran, he glanced back and saw some ordinary red-blooded beasts not chasing him, but instead pouncing on the corpses of level 1 beasts, frantically devouring them. It was a truly frightening sight. This was the second time he'd witnessed beasts cannibalizing each other. Or was it that beast meat not only enhanced humans, but also had the same effect when consumed by other beasts? Without much thought, he continued leaping across the shop's rooftop. Soon, he had shaken off the group of beasts, and the roars of the beasts were gone. He was safe. He added points. He checked his stats: level 1, 3/20, Constitution, 17.19, Agility, 15.21, Spirit, 13.9, Awakened Ability, Fire, Skills, Blacksmithing, Perfect, Throwing, Perfect, Basic Swordsmanship, Perfect. His current Constitution had reached 17. If we consider the normal hunter's stages, reaching level 1 hunter only required 10 points of Constitution. His current Constitution far exceeded that of a level 1 hunter. Not to mention he had awakened an ability. Once in battle, the power unleashed would be far beyond what ordinary first-tier hunters could achieve. Night fell. Lin Fan hid in a building, took out a piece of beast meat, raised his hand, and flames appeared in his palm. The raw meat, roasted by the flames, began to ooze oil, releasing a delicious aroma. Taking a bite, the primal flavor of the meat exploded on his taste buds. Truly delicious. He had long ago said that he, Lin Fan, would never eat raw meat. These terrible days should be over. The entire piece of meat was completely devoured. There was indeed a warm current, but it wasn't significant. His three-dimensional stats hadn't changed. The improvement from beast meat was slow, and after reaching a certain stage, he would need to consume blood crystals. He had hunted 5 first-tier beasts today, obtaining 5 blood crystals. It wasn't that he didn't want to kill, but he could only hunt 5. Some level 1 beasts were accompanied by level 2 beasts, making them difficult to hunt. Level 2 beasts were very strong, and he didn't know if he could kill them with his current strength, but he knew it wouldn't be as easy as hunting level 1 beasts. He consumed the 5 blood crystals he had obtained. The warm current intensified. He checked his panel. His constitution increased by 0.2. His agility increased by 0.1. He pondered. The 5 blood crystals increased my stats by a total of 0.3. It seems not every blood crystal can increase stats. Is it because the energy hasn't reached its limit? The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. However, he wouldn't care about these things. The main thing was to rely on evolution points. As for how much the blood crystals could increase his stats, it didn't matter to him. He would consume the blood crystals as long as he had them, regardless of whether they increased or not. He leaned against the corner of the wall, closed his eyes, and rested for a while. Once he came out, he would hunt beasts properly. He was in a hurry to go back earlier because he didn't want Old Wen to be in despair for too long. Now that wasn't an issue. As long as the resources of the exotic beasts in this area could meet his needs, he would definitely hunt them down thoroughly. At the same time, he thought of Zhang Yuang. His leaving the barrier to hunt exotic beasts wasn't a secret, and Zhang Yuang definitely knew. Although he hadn't had much interaction with Zhang Yuang, that guy was definitely ruthless. Now, in everyone's eyes, he was an awakened one, seemingly very high level, but in reality, he was only a first-tier awakened one. So, would Zhang Yuang have the idea of nipping him in the bud? There was definitely a chance. Maybe he had followed him out too. In a building some distance away, Zhang Yuang was also huddled up, searching for Lin Fan's whereabouts. Finding Lin Fan in this county town was a little difficult, but it was a difficulty that could be overcome. He wasn't out hunting exotic beasts this time, so he just needed to pay more attention to his surroundings. Any slight movement would definitely be caused by Lin Fan. Zhang Yuang smiled coldly in the darkness, a sinister smile on his face. He was determined to kill Lin Fan. He couldn't rest easy until Lin Fan was dead. He felt there would be more trouble ahead. Early morning. A loud bang rang out. Startled, Lin Fan opened his eyes abruptly. Gripping his knife, he ran to the rooftop and looked down. He saw an old bus surrounded by a group of strange beasts. The bus slammed against a wall. Although it hadn't overturned, it was now trapped. What's going on? How did a bus end up here? Lin Fan didn't act rashly but quietly observed. There were about 10 strange beasts, all ordinary red-blooded beasts. Even so, without a hunter, these ordinary beasts were enough to bring annihilation to the people on the bus. Through the windows, he saw a group of survivors inside, men and women, all in a state of panic. Help! Someone save us! I don't want to die, don't bite me! Don't bite me! Woo woo woo! A monstrous beast smashed open the window, its blood-red maw snapping at a living person inside the car. It then flung the person into the air, where they were torn to pieces by a group of beasts amidst a mournful scream, attracting a frenzy of fighting among them. What's going on? Why would a perfectly normal person be driving here? This isn't like when the apocalypse first broke out. It's been 10 years. Anyone who needs to hide has already found a place to hide. Nobody would just drive out like this. Lin Fan couldn't understand what was happening. Soon, a figure caught Lin Fan's attention. It was a middle-aged man who got out of the driver's seat, opened the roof window, climbed out, and then threw the infant onto the eaves of a shop. Lin Fan frowned, his mind racing. Observing the surroundings, he didn't see any other beasts rushing towards him, and the beasts surrounding the vehicle were just ordinary red-blooded monsters. Just as he was contemplating whether or not to intervene, a monstrous beast had already climbed onto the roof of the car, stepping over its companions. Seeing the human with his back to it, it opened its mouth, revealing sharp teeth, and lunged at the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man turned around and saw the beast charging towards him. Despair filled his face. Instead of panicking and fleeing, he listened to the crying child he had thrown onto the roof. He truly had no other choice. Their fortress had been breached by the beast. They were probably the only ones who would escape alive. And now, was it really all over? Whoosh! A blur flashed past. By the time he reacted, a short spear had pierced through the charging beast, pinning it to the wall. Looking in the direction the spear had come from, a man in a black trench coat leaped from the rooftop, landing steadily. The man looked up. Their eyes met. It was a pair of piercing gazes. Please continue reading. Please continue reading. Please continue reading. Thank you to readers like Haf Xiaoxing and Jin Ji Tang for their generous donations. Chapter 27 Shoddy Construction Project. Hey, you little brats, your target is me. Once upon a time, he could call any beast a little brat. Even the most common red-blooded beasts were beyond the capabilities of ordinary humans. Hearing the commotion, the beasts that were about to tear the bus apart stopped, their eyes fixed menacingly on the suddenly appearing knife-wielding human. They crouched low, emitting ferocious roars. Their gaping maws, sharp teeth, and dripping sap were all part of their beastly nature. The beasts wouldn't waste words with living humans. Seeing the prey, their primal instincts flared, and they immediately lunged at Lin Fan. The panicked survivors inside the bus stared at the scene before them. They knew someone had come to rescue them. But could they really withstand so many beasts? Soon, they realized they were wrong. This wasn't just withstanding, it was an explosion of power. At this moment, Lin Fan gripped the hilt of his knife, pressed his body down, extended his left leg straight back, a sharp glint in his eyes, and with his foot gripping the ground, unleashed an astonishing burst of power. Clang! The sound of blades scraping against the air filled the air, accompanied by flashes of light from the blades. Although there were many beasts, they were all ordinary red-blooded creatures. With his current strength, dealing with them was a piece of cake. Thud! Thud! The beasts that pounced through the air were sliced open by the sharp blades before they could even touch Lin Fan. Blood and internal organs gushed from the wounds, and a thick, pungent stench of blood suddenly filled the desolate city air. Done, job done, Lin Fan flicked his wrist, shaking off the blood from the blade. He had absolutely no interest in hunting ordinary beasts. It was a complete waste of time. Perhaps this was just a case of fickle tastes. He had once considered ordinary red-blooded beasts as treasures, but now they were just a bunch of obstacles. The survivors inside the vehicle stared, mouths agape, deeply shocked. They thought they were really going to die, but unexpectedly, at their most desperate moment, someone descended from the sky, like a great hero riding on auspicious clouds, rescuing them from their dire situation. Some couldn't help but shed tears of relief. The man on the roof of the car, recovering from his shock, hurriedly climbed onto the eaves of the shop, held the still crying child in his arms, and gently comforted him. Only when the child's crying stopped did he breathe a sigh of relief. "What happened to you?" Lin Fan asked the man who had climbed down from the roof of the car. The current situation was exactly the same as when he first transmigrated to this world and was discovered by Lu Shan and his sister. After all, the abandoned city was still quite dangerous. There wasn't a single hunter among the people in the car. Were they just out for a stroll? "Thank you for saving us," the man said gratefully. "No need to thank me, it was nothing." Lin Fan looked at the man, then at the baby he was holding. "Why did you all end up here?" As Lin Fan asked this, the man's face darkened, his eyes reddened, and his gaze revealed fear, but even more so, sorrow. "It's not that we wanted to come here, but the Baofeng fortress we were staying at was breached by the beast horde. Perhaps only we were able to escape." He didn't know how many people had escaped. There might be others, but all the survivors they saw were here. Lin Fan knew about the Baofeng fortress. Like the Maya fortress, it wasn't too far away, only about 50 kilometers at most. In peacetime, it would take about an hour to get there. But in the apocalypse, the roads were damaged, and there were abandoned vehicles blocking the way, requiring a slow journey of about 2 or 3 hours. There were many such fortresses, large and small. But the fortresses around the county town were all small. "So you're going to the Mayaoan fortress now, right?" Lin Fan asked. The man nodded. "Yes, we're heading to Mayaoan fortress now," Lin Fan said. Both Baofeng fortress and Mayaoan fortress are small fortresses, and they were perfectly fine. How could they suddenly break down like that? This was something he couldn't understand. Mayaoan fortress alone was 6 meters deep and quite high. It was definitely not something a level 1 or 2 alien beast could climb, let alone with hunters and awakened beings inside. The man shook his head. "Sloppy construction is disastrous. I'm a local from Baofeng County. When this fortress was built, a notorious local gangster businessman, I don't know what methods he used, contracted the construction of this fortress. The materials he used were all substandard," he understood instantly. "It might really have been luck that it lasted 10 years. Don't your fortresses have outer and inner walls?" "No." "Then there must be air raid shelters, right?" "Yes." At this moment, Lin Fan knew that there were definitely still people alive. The air raid shelter was the last refuge for the fortress administrators. When the walls collapsed and the administrators realized the situation was irreversible, they would close the iron gates, hide inside, and wait for the beast tide to leave on its own. Suddenly, the man seemed to understand something. There was an air raid shelter. That meant the fortress administrators must be hiding inside. "Who's in charge of your stronghold?" Is it the gangster developer you mentioned earlier? No, but he's connected to me. It's Han Ping, the developer's henchman. He killed his boss a long time ago and took over. Lin Fan pondered, not saying much more. Alright, you guys hurry up and drive off to Mayaoan stronghold. Brother, I don't even know your name yet. Lin Fan, are you alone? Yes, I came out of Mayaoan stronghold alone to hunt monsters. I just came out not long ago. The road is relatively safe. Arriving safely shouldn't be a problem, thank you. My name is Wang Hai. I thank you on behalf of everyone. Lin Fan nodded, not saying much more. After all, this wasn't a place for idle chatter. Who knew if a monster horde would appear? Leaving early was the wise choice. Wang Hai understood this as well. He backed the bus out of the wall, relieved to find it undamaged. Everyone boarded and the bus drove away. Wang Hai glanced in the rearview mirror at his savior in the black trench coat, his eyes filled with undisguised gratitude. A while later, Zhang Yuang, who had been searching for Lin Fan, saw the approaching bus. Through the window, he saw the expressions of the survivors inside, all of them filled with fear and unease. After confirming there were no monsters nearby, Zhang Yang went to the street and flagged down the bus. The bus stopped. Wang Hai looked at him warily, but still spoke up. We're going to Mayaoan Fortress. Do you want a ride? Zhang Yang said. I came from the fortress. I'm looking for my friend. Have you seen a young man in a black trench coat carrying a short spear? Wang Hai immediately knew he was talking about his savior. Just as he was about to say he had, Lin Fan's words flashed through his mind. He had come here alone to hunt monsters, without any companions. Having lived in the apocalypse for so long, Wang Hai remained cautious. He stopped the car because he was confident he could quickly escape if the other party made any ill intentions. No, Wang Hai shook his head. Oh, Zhang Yuang didn't say anything more and quickly turned back into the building. Wang Hai didn't waste any words either, stepping on the gas and heading towards the Mayaoan fortress. Back in the building, Zhang Yang recalled the details of what had just happened, the impact on the front of the car, the broken windows. It was clearly something that had just occurred, and the car was full of ordinary people. Judging from the scratches on the car body, the number of monsters surrounding the vehicle was definitely not small. It was unlikely that they could have broken free on their own. It could only mean that someone had helped them. Thinking of this, Zhang Yuang kept jumping on the rooftop, searching for Lin Fan's whereabouts. Soon, he saw the ground littered with the corpses of monsters. This is it, he hadn't observed his surroundings, but it was quiet all around, without a sound. This made Zhang Yuang suspect that the kid might have already left. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 I'm hunting strange beasts. What are you doing? With a soft thud, a level 1 beast collapsed to the ground, a short spear embedded in its body, piercing its abdomen. Of course, this wasn't a fatal wound. The fatal blow was the one that split its head in two. Lin Fan stepped forward, pulled out the spear, and then retrieved the blood crystal from the beast's abdomen, using the evolution points he had gained. I seem to have an amazing talent for swordsmanship. Wielding a sword is indeed quite cool. Lin Fan nodded with satisfaction. He thoroughly enjoyed the thrill of hunting beasts. He had already moved to a different location. He wasn't sure if Zhang Yang had come to kill him, but regardless, he considered Zhang Yang as already present, so he moved to continue hunting beasts. So what if the opponent was a level 3 hunter? He wondered how long it had taken him to reach level 3. He, on the other hand, was currently a level 1 awakened being, and the time to advance to level 2 would be incredibly fast enough to be unbelievable, even unbelievable. He set himself a small goal. If he couldn't sweep through this post-apocalyptic world in a year, he felt he was humiliating this cheat code. Right now, nothing else mattered to him. His only concern was the situation at Baofeng Fortress. Those management members were definitely hiding in the air raid shelter. When the fortress was breached, they didn't resist or flee. They were undoubtedly trying to preserve their strength. And now that the fortress was gone, what would they choose next? It was obvious without even a choice. They would definitely try to occupy the nearest fortress. For hunters and awakened ones, the number of ordinary people in the fortress wasn't important. As long as they could eliminate the powerful ones, any number of ordinary people would simply submit. Therefore, Lin Fan believed that Miaoan Fortress might pose a potential danger. He shook off these thoughts and continued searching for level 1 alien beasts. As for the ordinary alien beasts, he wouldn't even glance at them. The only frustrating thing was that some level 1 alien beasts were mixed in with a large group of alien beasts, making it temporarily impossible for him to attack. Alice, it wasn't that he couldn't attack, ultimately, his own strength was too weak. Night fell. Lin Fan stayed in a building, savoring the well-cooked meat of a strange beast while checking his stats panel. Level 1, 10/20, Constitution. 24.39, Agility. 22.31, Spirit. 20.9 not bad. The attribute increases quite fast. His attribute data was impressive. Reaching over 20 points in Constitution, he found it difficult to describe the changes in words. If he had to demonstrate it with actions, he could only say that he could break steel with his hands. One punch from him could kill even a fully grown elephant. As for the increase in spirit, he also noticed that the flames were hotter, with faint white flames appearing within the crimson flames. He felt that as his spirit continued to increase, the flames might also evolve. Meanwhile, outside, in the darkness, things were far from peaceful. The roars of strange beasts echoed everywhere. He went to the window and looked out. Every building was completely dark, without a single ray of light. This is truly torture for people living in the apocalypse. Staying here for too long would definitely drive them mad. Listening carefully, he noticed something strange about the roars of the strange beasts. For some reason, they sounded a bit like cats in heat. Damn, could it be that the strange beasts also want to mate and reproduce? Thinking this, he looked down at his crotch. To be honest, he was still a sword that had never been drawn. Morning. As the first rays of dawn appeared, Lin Fan continued his actions. When he reached the rooftop and was about to act, a gaze, almost tangible, came from afar. It was as if there was a premonition. When a certain emotion is deep, it feels tangible to the person being gazed upon. He looked in the direction he sensed. On the rooftop of a shop in the distance, stood a burly man, carrying a giant axe, a sinister smile on his lips as he stared at Lin Fan. Found you, finally found you. Zhang Yong's gaze towards Lin Fan was like that of a bloodthirsty beast. For Zhang Yong, there was a set of rules. If he felt someone disliked him, he had to kill them when he was absolutely certain of success. In his eyes, Lin Fan was just a first-tier awakened, and a newly awakened one at that. Compared to him, a third-tier hunter, Lin Fan was just a child who could barely run. Lin Fan watched calmly, gave Zhang Yong the middle finger, and then turned and headed towards another shop rooftop. Seeing Lin Fan running, Zhang Yong leaped off the rooftop, landed on the street, and then jumped up and down, quickly reaching the rooftop of a shop across the street. His speed isn't as fast as I thought. Lin Fan looked back and realized the problem. They didn't have specific attributes. If there was data, would their attributes be exactly the same as his? Suddenly, he thought of a possibility. When he consumed the meat of alien beasts and blood crystals, the 3 dimensions he gained weren't comprehensive. Sometimes it increased physique, sometimes agility, and perhaps his spirit also improved slightly. But Zhang Yong wasn't an awakened, which meant that even though his spirit had improved, he hadn't reached the limit. Sure enough, the existence of evolution points was his biggest advantage in widening the gap between him and others. Lin Fan ignored Zhang Yong and continued searching for level 1 beasts. Suddenly, he saw a level 1 beast wandering around, followed by several ordinary red-blooded beasts. It fell directly from the rooftop, startling the beast. Seeing a human leaping down, the beast was about to erupt in anger when the human's blade, covered in flames, enveloped it, shattering its will with a single strike. Lin Fan, carrying the dead level 1 beast's corpse, tossed it into the air, pierced its abdomen with his 5 fingers, extracted the blood crystal, and then walked away without looking back, leaving only the beast's corpse lying motionless on the ground. The surrounding henchmen, after a brief moment of stunned silence, surrounded him and tearfully devoured their boss's corpse. They could only say, it smelled delicious. Zhang Yong, who still couldn't catch up, saw Lin Fan's actions and was filled with anger and astonishment. Damn it, you little brat, you even hunt beasts while running away. When I catch you, I'll snap your neck. Zhang Yong's face was full of anger, feeling that this kid was humiliating him. He knew he absolutely couldn't let Lin Fan escape. Once he got back to the fortress, he would never be able to go back. But why is he so fast? Zhang Yuang frowned, puzzled. Then he thought of the axe on his back. Could it be that the axe was too heavy, affecting his running speed? Thinking about it, that was probably a possibility. But whatever. He couldn't escape. The chase continued, with Lin Fan hunting beasts along the way. When he really let loose, he found that the beast groups he encountered weren't so bad after all. Even if he alerted a large number of beasts, what difference would it make? He had already jumped from one shop building to another. It has to be said that Miaoan County is indeed quite nice. There aren't many tall buildings, all the shops are only about 3 or 4 stories high on average. If these shops were 6 or 7 stories high, with his current agility, it would be impossible for him to manage that. It would be very difficult to shake off the pursuing alien beasts. After an unknown amount of time, after hunting down the last level 1 alien beast, his evolution points arrived. He added points: level 2, 030, Constitution, 34.39, Agility, 32.31, Spirit, 30.9, Ability, Flame, White Flame. He stopped on the rooftop of a shop, no longer running. He turned around and waited for Zhang Yuang to arrive. After several dozen seconds, Zhang Yuang, who had been chasing him, finally arrived. Before Zhang Yuang could speak, Lin Fan spoke first. I'm hunting alien beasts. What are you doing? Please continue reading. Please continue reading. Chapter 29. I don't know what it feels like to be burned by flames. You're hunting monsters. Why are you asking me? I'm going to twist your head off and use it as a football. Zhang Yuang pulled out the giant axe from his back, staring at Lin Fan with a fierce expression. In his eyes, Lin Fan was already a dead man, with no chance of survival. You're really confident? Lin Fan was relaxed and indifferent, not taking Zhang Yuang seriously. Although he was holding a giant axe and looked intimidating, he was no longer the same person he used to be. HMPH, what's there to be confident about? You just became an awakened one. Do you think you can pose a threat to me? I was thinking that since you were hiding in the fortress, I wouldn't have had the chance to kill you, but you asked for it and actually ran out of the fortress. I can only say you're too stupid. Zhang Yuang looked at Lin Fan as if he were a fool. If it were anyone else who became an awakened one, they would definitely be hiding in the fortress enjoying a good life. Who would want to come out and suffer for no reason? But you have to admit, this kid really has something wrong with his head. You think you're here to kill me, but have you considered that I'm actually luring you out? Lin Fan asked with a smile, a question that stumped Zhang Yuang. Zhang Yuang's expression changed slightly, and he roared angrily, you're playing dumb with me. Luring me? With your mere first-tier awakened being, I could crush you like an ant. As the roars of the surrounding beasts intensified, Zhang Yuang didn't waste any more words with Lin Fan. Instead, he gripped his giant axe and charged towards Lin Fan, raising the axe high and roaring fiercely. Die? As a third-tier hunter, Zhang Yuang possessed great strength, but as Lin Fan had said, his speed wasn't fast. Facing this ferocious axe strike, Lin Fan remained calm, gripping his tang sword tightly and slashing down fiercely. A clang rang out. Sparks flew. Lin Fan felt the force of the giant axe falling and had a general idea of what was happening. Although Zhang Yuang was a third-tier hunter, this power was within his tolerance. Zhang Yuang's expression changed instantly, from initial rage to shock. How could your power? Don't talk during a fight, just watch. Lin Fan interrupted Zhang Yuang's attempt to utter a word, his sword suddenly becoming incredibly nimble. He had mastered the basic swordsmanship to perfection, a skill far beyond the reach of ordinary people. Although Zhang Yuang was a third-tier hunter with extensive experience fighting beasts, this was a human battle. Beasts would only charge recklessly, but humans wouldn't. The clanging of weapons continued, sparks flying everywhere. Zhang Yuang's expression grew increasingly grave. The blade of his giant axe was already cracked. Thinking that this was Yao Zu's enchanted ability, he felt a surge of anger and a deep bewilderment at Lin Fan's strength. How could this be? You've only just become an awakened one. How come you have such power? Zhang Yuang couldn't touch Lin Fan, and Lin Fan's swordsmanship was so powerful that he was struggling to defend himself. His muscular body was already covered in wounds, though not deep, blood was still flowing uncontrollably. He knew Lin Fan hadn't used his full strength yet, because his abilities hadn't been revealed. Seeing Zhang Yuang's disheveled state, Lin Fan laughed and said, I just said I'm hunting beasts. What are you doing? Are you trying to deliver yourself to me so I can easily cut you down like this? The sharp tang sword grew faster and faster, and Zhang Yuang struggled to defend himself. Lin Fan's speed was too fast, making Zhang Yong feel overwhelmed, while he also had to be wary of Lin Fan's abilities. "It's over." Lin Fan's expression suddenly turned serious. White flames covered his tang sword, and he slashed down fiercely. Zhang Yong was startled and raised his hand to block, but the power of this strike was too great, directly shattering the giant axe he was trying to block. Compared to the enchanted tang sword, the giant axe Zhang Yong was holding was really ordinary. After shattering the giant axe, the strike didn't stop, but slashed down vertically, tearing open Zhang Yong's chest flesh with a sizzling sound. The scorching flames burned the wound black, and a smell of burnt flesh wafted up. "Ah!" Zhang Yong screamed in agony, writhing on the ground in excruciating pain. Lin Fan quietly watched the suffering Zhang Yong, then listened to the roars of the strange beasts. The commotion he had caused had already attracted their attention. He picked up his tang sword, which was burning with white flames, and walked up to Zhang Yong. "I know it hurts to have your flesh cleaved open by a knife, but how does it feel to be burned by my flames? I've never been burned by fire before, and now that my awakened ability is fire, I'm fearless of it. It's hard for me to feel anything." Listen to that. Is that something a human would say? Regardless, Zhang Yong is a third-tier hunter with a pretty good physique. Gradually, he gets used to the pain and can endure it. He struggles to lift his head, his sweat-covered face showing a shocked and disbelieving expression. Then, the shock and disbelief vanish, replaced by fear and dread. "Can you let me go?" Zhang Yong pleads PFFT. Lin Fan can't help but laugh out loud. "Brother, you've been in this apocalypse for 10 years now, and how can you ask such a stupid question? Don't you think this will make me look down on you even more?" He's found that when despair strikes, many people's brains become less intelligent, always asking questions they know they won't get a response to, yet they seem to enjoy it nonetheless. Zhang Yong pleaded, "I was wrong, I was really wrong, I'm an idiot, I'm crazy, I shouldn't have had any murderous intent towards you, please let me go." He truly didn't want to die. However, he still couldn't understand one thing: why was the other party, who had just become an awakened, so powerful? It had taken him many years to become a tier 3 hunter. Lin Fan smiled, his tang sword flashing like a shadow. With a soft sound, 2 arms flew through the air, rolling in the shop street, blood dripping from them. Then came the sounds of beasts fighting over them. Zhang Yong screamed, his face deathly pale. "Don't kill me. We're all on the same side. I was wrong, but putting aside the facts, I only did this because I was afraid you would retaliate against me later. That's why I took the initiative. Now that my hands are severed, I can't pose any threat to you anymore, so please let me go." Zhang Yong was terrified of death. If he had known this would be his fate, even if he were killed, he would never have considered killing Lin Fan. Lin Fan rolled his eyes, grabbed Zhang Yong by the neck, lifted him up, and walked to the edge of the rooftop, looking down at the street. The street was now teeming with strange beasts. They were scrambling to get up there, their frenzied actions making Lin Fan's heart race. They were truly a pack of crazed beasts. Zhang Yong struggled, but the hand gripping his neck was incredibly strong. No matter how much he struggled, it was useless. He couldn't even beg for mercy. His trachea was being squeezed, giving him a suffocating feeling. "Goodbye." Lin Fan casually tossed Zhang Yong off the rooftop. As he fell, Zhang Yong looked at the azure sky, then glared angrily at Lin Fan. "You son of a bitch, you'll die a horrible death." Thud. A beast leaped up, opened its blood-red maw, and bit into Zhang Yong's abdomen. Instantly, blood spurted out, and a scream erupted. As he hit the ground, a large number of beasts surged in, devouring Zhang Yong. The screams subsided. He knew Zhang Yong was dead. Lin Fan watched for a few seconds, then turned and left without looking back. To him, Zhang Yong was just a trivial incident. What mattered most was what he needed to do next: begin hunting level 2 alien beasts. Would the administrators of the breached fortress come to seize the Temple Bay fortress? In his opinion, they definitely would. Chapter 30, If we rob that place, we'll have everything. Miaoun Fortress. You said you escaped from Baofeng Fortress, and that Baofeng Fortress was breached by the alien beasts. Zhou Shichen, having learned there were survivors who escaped from another fortress, rushed over to inquire. Upon learning that Baofeng Fortress had been captured by the alien beasts, his expression turned extremely grave. This was not good news, frankly, it was utterly terrible. Is Han Ping alive? This was what Zhou Shichen most wanted to know. He had spoken with Han Ping, and he wasn't a good person. Moreover, Living conditions at Baofeng Fortress were appalling. The ordinary survivors there were practically treated worse than animals. Men were alright, but if a woman had any beauty, Han Ping would take her, whether she wanted it or not. He wouldn't even spare a 13 or 14-year-old girl. I don't know. I saw the survivors here, Wang Hai said. Zhou Shichen pondered. He's definitely not dead. Han Ping is an awakened, and you have air raid shelters there. With your fortress collapsing due to shoddy construction and surrounded by alien beasts, he knew running was the most dangerous thing to do, so he must be hiding in an air raid shelter. Then, oh, right, you just said you were saved by Lin Fan, right? Zhou Shicheng asked. Yes, that's right, he saved me. Wang Hai was very grateful to Lin Fan for saving his life. In the apocalypse, it's truly rare to encounter someone willing to save your life. Zhou Shichen knew Lin Fan had gone out. Although he was worried, he was relieved to hear that Wang Hai was alive. In the apocalypse, personal choices are one's own business, and others have no right to interfere. What can you do? Zhou Shicheng asked. If Wang Hai had a skill, he could offer him better treatment, especially since Wang Hai was raising an infant. This wasn't out of pity, but because the other person had some connection with Lin Fan. Since Lin Fan had saved him, Zhou Shicheng felt he should offer some treatment as a sign of respect. The apocalypse wasn't about fighting and backstabbing, it was about human relationships. Wang Hai said, my previous profession was agriculture, and I worked in that field at Baofeng Fortress. Hearing that the other person was an expert in agriculture, Zhou Shicheng's eyes lit up. In the apocalypse, this kind of talent was scarce. Every fortress and every administrator hoped to achieve self-sufficiency, but it was often difficult. Good, very good. I didn't expect to find such talent. How about this, you'll work in agriculture within our fortress. Since you have a baby to care for, I can provide you with rice to make porridge. I'll also arrange a place for you to live in a corner of the inner wall to solve your housing problem. Zhou Shicheng's offer was very generous. Not everyone could enjoy such benefits. Thank you so much, Wang Hai said gratefully. These benefits truly solved his immediate problem. No need to thank me. In our stronghold, as long as you have talent, you can enjoy the treatment you deserve, Zhou Shicheng said. Wang Hai thought the stronghold's administrators were quite good. They were very reasonable. He then had someone take Wang Hai away, and after Wang Hai left, Zhou Shicheng looked at a man beside him. Kang, have someone keep an eye on them. Okay, I know. The man turned and left. Zhou Shicheng naturally believed they had escaped from the stronghold. And he also believed that the Baofeng stronghold might really have been destroyed by the alien beasts, but he couldn't guarantee that these people weren't deliberately sent by Han Ping to gather intelligence. If these guys were deliberately sent, intending to coordinate an attack from within, it would be really troublesome. He had to be wary of this possibility. Because the apocalypse was truly dangerous, anyone who seemed honest could be a wolf in sheep's clothing. Baofeng stronghold. The wall collapsed, revealing a huge passage, the only passage for the alien beasts to pour in. Inside, it was a scene of utter devastation. Houses had collapsed, vehicles were burning, and bloodstains were everywhere. Not a single human was in sight, not even a severed limb. The beasts' ability to clean up their environment was truly remarkable. Occasionally, the beasts would appear, seemingly searching for prey. At the center of the fortress, the iron door of the air raid shelter was covered in bloodstains, indicating that many had fled there, trying to enter but unable to open the door, ultimately perishing at the beast's gaping maws. Inside, a group of people huddled in the inner space. The atmosphere was oppressive, like a mountain pressing down on everyone present, making it hard to breathe. A flick of a lighter broke the silence. Brother Han, are we really going to hide here until we die? All eyes turned to the man sitting there, head bowed, fiddling with a lighter, Han Ping of the Baofeng Fortress. Han Ping looked to be in his early 30s, bald, with an ordinary appearance and not particularly muscular build. His tattooed face gave him a fierce air. Anyone with a weak constitution would break out in a cold sweat at his gaze. He'd been involved in the underworld since his teens, working with local businessmen in shady dealings. A few years later, the apocalypse arrived, order collapsed, and he followed his boss to the fortress. Because of their ruthlessness and weapons, they quickly seized control. As his ambition grew, he killed his boss and took his place, becoming the leader. Death, Han Ping slowly raised his head, his gloomy gaze sending a chill down everyone's spine. Only a tortoise hides in its shell waiting to die. There are still monsters outside, What's the rush? Once they've eaten all the food, they'll leave on their own. Brother Han, what do we do then? Should we repair the wall, or use the air raid shelter as our refuge? Someone asked. The shoddy construction was contracted by Brother Han's boss. It was truly reaping what they sowed. If the quality were truly excellent, this terrible thing wouldn't have happened. It's an incredibly frustrating situation. Han Ping said, the closest stronghold to us is Miaoan stronghold. Its administrator is Zhou Shichen, a third-tier awakened. His ability is to manipulate metal. He's powerful, but I'm not afraid of him. We'll just take over there, and then we'll have everything. What's the panic? The eyes of the surrounding crowd suddenly lit up. Those who could be in the air raid shelter were all on their side, and they were either awakened or hunters, so their armed forces were quite formidable. In fact, under Han Ping's influence, their personalities were extremely volatile. Killing and seizing territory were normal occurrences for them. Han Ping knew that Miaoan stronghold had 9 awakened. Although they only had 7, it didn't matter, 1 or 2 more wouldn't make a difference. Miaoan stronghold was a must-have. As for peaceful coexistence, that was impossible. In Han Ping's dictionary, there was no such word as peace. It was all about fighting. It was all about killing. It was all about robbing. Only in this way could they prove they were still alive, and that their lives were meaningful. Thank you to Reader 20230819181116263 for your generous donation. Chapter 31 Stop, Don't Move. What kind of beast is this? In his understanding, beasts were simply evolved wild animals that had expanded in size, exhibiting advantages without changing their basic appearance. But this beast was somewhat incomprehensible to him. Its limbs seemed to have a suction force, allowing it to cling to walls and crawl. 3 fleshy tails at the end of its tail moved freely, and with a whoosh, the beast bounced off the wall and landed steadily on the ground. Its limbs were short yet incredibly strong, covered in muscles possessing immense explosive power, and its body resembled that of a lizard. The blue stripes around its abdomen indicated it was a level 2 beast. Lin Fan simply couldn't figure out what this beast's original form was. A lizard? It didn't look like one. Unless this beast was a hybrid of other beasts. That was a possibility. Beasts were evolving, and their offspring would become even more perfect. Observing the surroundings, besides the level 2 alien beast, there were some ordinary red-blooded alien beasts wandering around. He didn't pay them any mind. These ordinary red-blooded alien beasts were dispensable in his eyes. As the level 2 alien beast approached, Lin Fan gripped his short spear, his gaze locked onto its opponent, and with a whoosh, the short spear shot through the air. The reaction of a level 2 alien beast was much faster than that of a level 1 alien beast. Clang. It missed. No, not exactly missed. The short spear grazed the surface of the alien beast's body, its sharp edge tearing a wound. Although the wound was shallow, it had indeed caused damage. The reaction of a level 2 alien beast is quite impressive. He had already discovered that the abilities of a level 2 alien beast in all aspects were far superior to those of a level 1 alien beast. The gap between the two was enormous. The alien beast that had been ambushed roared angrily, its fierce and bloodthirsty eyes fixed on Lin Fan. Its 3 tails swayed violently, and it charged quickly toward Lin Fan's location with its short, thick limbs. The ordinary red-blooded alien beasts around were also drawn to its attention. They rushed over, but Lin Fan, who was on the rooftop, was a man they could never have. They could only roar impatiently in the street. Lin Fan sheathed his short spear and waited on the rooftop. Soon, the beast crawled onto the rooftop, stood firm, and opened its blood-red maw, full of sharp teeth, letting out an angry roar. It was as if it were saying, "Human, I was enjoying my stroll, and you dare to ambush me? I'll show you how I kill you." "Excuse me, what 2 beasts are you a hybrid of?" Lin Fan asked casually, holding his knife. He had no other intentions, he was just asking casually. Being out in the quiet, desolate city made him prone to silence, which could easily lead to mental health issues. Occasionally talking to himself was a perfect way to regulate his emotions. Whoosh! As he spoke, one of the beast's tails seemed to extend and retract, transforming into a sharp arrow that hurtled towards Lin Fan. The tip of the tail was a sharp, pointed horn. Lin Fan dodged, and with a bang, the ground was pierced by the beast's tail. Even the concrete couldn't withstand the force. The destructive power was truly impressive. He glanced at the ground, then at the beast, raised his knife, and brought it down fiercely. The beast didn't take Lin Fan seriously. Its 3 tails nimbly attacked, easily ignoring the ordinary knife. However, when a wall of white flame suddenly ignited on the ordinary blade, an immense sense of crisis swept over it. The beast panicked, trying to dodge, but it was too late. The flaming blade touched the tails, the intense heat causing the beast to scream in agony. Even more terrifying, its 3 tails were severed like tofu, the wounds congealed by the burns, and no blood flowed. Lin Fan was very satisfied with the fire ability. It was incredibly destructive in killing enemies. If injured and bleeding profusely, a simple application of the flame would stop the bleeding effectively. More importantly, it meant he could always find cooked food, no matter where he went. That was the most crucial thing. The level 2 beast was stunned, clearly not expecting this turn of events. In an instant, it reacted and tried to escape. Beasts at this level already knew whether they could defeat their opponent, and when they couldn't, running away was the best option. Trying to run, too late, his previous spear thrust had been slightly dodged, a humiliation for Lin Fan. He'd painstakingly perfected his throwing skill. Did he really think it could be so easily avoided? Gripping the spear, he watched the beast leap into the air, his gaze locking onto its most vulnerable spot on its back. He threw it. With a whoosh, a moment later, a soft thud echoed. The beast in the air wore a grotesque expression, its eyes widening in pain, but after the pain, there was a hint of exhilaration. Lin Fan, however, didn't see these expressions. He pulled on the rope, dragging the beast, pierced by the spear, back. Evolution point +1, he pulled out the blood-stained spear, covered it with flames, and cleaned away the grime. Point added. Attribute improved. Cut open the beast's abdomen and retrieved a blood crystal. A level 2 beast's blood crystal was quite valuable. The effects of beast meat were generally similar, all the nutrients being concentrated in the blood crystal. He held the blood crystal up to the sky. Under the sunlight, liquid flowed within the blue crystal. What a beautiful, jewel-like thing. How can such a beautiful thing exist inside such a ferocious beast? He carefully put the blood crystal away. Holding a knife, he cut off a piece of bloody flesh. I've never tasted the flesh of a level 2 beast before. He placed a meat in his palm, covered it with flames, and a delicious aroma filled the air. It smelled delicious. He opened his mouth, let out a soft ah, and took a big bite. His mouth was greasy, and the meaty flavor exploded on his taste buds. Below, the ferocious beasts, roaring and trying to charge, became even more frenzied. Like dogs trapped in a cage seeing meat outside, they frantically squeezed the cage, even if it meant their heads would crack, just to get their hands on the meat. Lin Fan carried the corpse of the level 2 alien beast to the edge of the rooftop, looked down at the group of alien beasts, and casually tossed the corpse down. As the corpse hit the ground, the alien beasts frantically scrambled for it. Lin Fan simply watched them quietly devour the carcass. I'm truly a kind and good person. Even when I send you on your way, I let you eat your fill. Besides me, who else would take care of you like this? Lin Fan gripped his knife, swooped down, and activated his hunting mode, hacking wildly at the group of ordinary red-blooded alien beasts. They howled and screamed, offering no chance of resistance. In a short while, the corpses of these ordinary red-blooded alien beasts lay scattered on the ground. He stood on the street, blood dripping from his knife, indifferently observing the scene. These corpses were precious to ordinary people, but for Lin Fan, he had to continue hunting alien beasts. His current strength was both sufficient and insufficient. The road ahead for this young man was long, he needed to continue striving. A long time later, Lin Fan emerged from a shop that seemed to have some remaining supplies. He went in full of hope, but left full of disappointment. It was truly appalling. They had looted everything. Sighing, he prepared to look elsewhere when a voice suddenly came from the side. Stop. Don't move, or I'll shoot you dead. Chapter 32 Strange Situation. What awful words. This was the last thing Lin Fan wanted to hear. He knew that humans in the apocalypse were just as terrifying, but so far, he had only killed a few. As for how it felt? To be honest, he didn't like it much, because killing was a terrible habit, easily addictive, and once addicted, it was really hard to change. In the end, he would completely become a butcher. When he saw a living person, his first thought wasn't whether he could communicate with them, but whether he could kill them. Looking in the direction of the sound, he saw some people standing on the edge of the rooftop, indeed holding pistols. Pistols were pretty useless. They could deal with ordinary people, but against hunters or awakened individuals who had reached level 2 or above, they were rather ineffective. Their agility had increased, Their reaction speed was extremely fast, and they could easily dodge attacks or even defend themselves with their weapons. These people didn't look well, they were exhausted, somewhat insane, and their eyes lacked light, only showing a wariness of the apocalypse and suspicion of those around them. Don't be nervous, I'm not a bad person. Be careful your gun doesn't go off accidentally. It would be terrible if you didn't kill me but instead attracted the monsters. Lin Fan smiled, a smile that could unlock the depths of someone's heart, especially his sincere one, which was incredibly powerful. The survivors on the rooftop, the man with a gun, whispered, "Put down everything you have and leave, or don't blame us for being impolite." Lin Fan said, "What could I possibly have? A knife, a short spear." Did you come from Baofeng Fortress? He felt that was likely the case. Although there were quite a few wanderers, most of the wanderers in this area were already dead. If there were two groups of wanderers, given their personalities, they would absolutely not tolerate each other's existence. The survivors exchanged glances, then looked at Lin Fan. "Did you encounter any other people who came out of Baofeng Fortress?" "Yes, I did. A whole carload of people. They've gone to Miaoan Fortress. I think they've arrived by now. Take my advice, put your guns away. I can assume you have no ill intentions, but if you do, I can't guarantee what the consequences will be," Lin Fan said. The man with a gun hesitated upon hearing Lin Fan's words, glancing at his companions. They didn't know what to do either. In the end, the man put his gun away. Lin Fan nodded with satisfaction. There were still many smart people. If they dared to fire, he could only say that some of the monsters in the city would truly experience a happiness knocking on the door event, enjoying a delicious meal. "Wait a moment, I'm coming up now," Lin Fan said. The survivors on the rooftop were about to go downstairs to open the door when they saw Lin Fan leap up and appear in front of them in a few quick movements, leaving them dumbfounded. He climbed up the height so easily? Suddenly, a wave of fear washed over them. If they had fired, they would have been completely wiped out. Lin Fan looked at the faces of each survivor before him. "Why are you here? Miaoan Fortress isn't too far. You could get there quickly if you wanted to." They must have had a vehicle to get from Baofeng Fortress to the county town, otherwise, they would never have made it this far. "We were intercepted by a terrifying beast." "A terrifying beast?" "Yes, it was a giant python. Huge and enormous," Lin Fan frowned. Since transmigrating to this apocalyptic world, he had never seen a snake-like beast. For some reason, the fear of snakes seemed ingrained in humans' genes. Even though Lin Fan now slaughtered beasts like vegetables, he still felt a strange unease about snakes. "Where was your vehicle intercepted?" Lin Fan asked. "There," the man pointed. "Wait here for me, I'll go get the car." After saying that, Lin Fan jumped down from the rooftop and soon brought the car. He noticed that the survivors seemed to prefer pickup trucks. Was it because they could carry a lot of things? He couldn't figure it out, but that might be the reason. Because they mentioned the giant python? He was very cautious when he went to get the car, fearing the python might appear. Snakes are cold-blooded animals with poor eyesight, usually relying on infrared light emitted by animals to form their vision and hunt. But this wasn't normal, they had evolved. Who knew if the python's eyesight was any better? Fortunately, they didn't encounter one, which was a relief. "You can't stay here. I've brought the car. Drive to the fortress. Oh, and come with me to place. I want you to bring me some things back," Lin Fan said. The survivors nodded, heeding Lin Fan's words. Living in the apocalypse, they only wanted to survive. Originally, they intended to reach the fortress, but were blocked by the giant python. Upon discovering Lin Fan's presence, they decided to rob him, as they had no food. A day or two would suffice, but the longer they stayed, the worse the consequences would be. Having survived since the beginning of the apocalypse, they had experienced everything. While they had been exploited in the fortress, the shelter from the wind and rain had allowed them to maintain their humanity. However, when food was scarce and despair filled their hearts, the things that might happen were unimaginable. Mutual harm and treating each other as food were not impossible. The fortress was like a faint flame of hope illuminating their hearts and pointing them towards the future. When the fortress crumbled, that faint flame of hope would also be extinguished, leaving only darkness ahead. Soon, they arrived at the scene littered with the corpses of monstrous beasts. The sight before them startled them, filling them with fear. Lin Fan, noticing their panic, spoke first. "Don't be nervous. I killed these beasts. I need to stay outside for a while, and leaving these corpses here is a waste. So, take them back to the fortress on your way. You can take 2 of them as payment, enough to help you survive in this unfamiliar fortress. 2 for us." The survivors were astonished. Lin Fan smiled. "What's so surprising? I don't know if others would do this, but I, Lin Fan, won't be stingy in this regard. Remember, when you get to the fortress, give them my name and tell them these are the prey I hunted. Also, have someone inform Wen Quan, understood, for these survivors, this was an immense surprise. Beast meat was highly valuable. For ordinary people, having beast meat was enough to live comfortably for a while. At this moment, Lin Fan seemed to be radiating light. This light was dazzling and brilliant. In the long apocalypse, very few people could make them feel truly radiant. Watching them leave, Lin Fan continued his search for level 2 alien beasts in the desolate city. He began to suspect that the level of alien beasts in this area might be limited, otherwise, how could the awakened ones within the barrier possibly hold them off? If that were the case, then one day in the future, he would need to travel to more distant places to find alien beasts that could meet his needs. At this moment, Lin Fan, moving through the city, didn't notice a thick, scaly body moving in a dark alley, accompanied by hissing sounds that echoed through the quiet lane. He didn't notice any of this. He only noticed that something was amiss. The alien beast seemed to have suddenly vanished. Empty. Very quiet. A very strange situation. Chapter 33 was swallowed. How strange. Lin Fan looked around, walking 2 streets without seeing a single ghost. This made him very uncomfortable. Why haven't I encountered any beasts since meeting those survivors? Their good luck has turned into bad luck for me. For those survivors, not encountering beasts was definitely good luck. But for Lin Fan, he came here to hunt beasts. If he didn't encounter any, he was doomed. Suddenly, a strange stare made him uncomfortable. Every hair on his body stood on end. Danger. When you feel danger behind you, never look back. This is a conclusion drawn from countless lives. Without thinking, Lin Fan sprinted forward, and the instant he ran off, a loud bang echoed behind him. Only then did he dare to look back. One glance was enough to make him stare wide-eyed and exclaim that he had seen a ghost. A gigantic python, a full 10 zang long, moved swiftly, attacking in an S-shaped pattern. Its body was as thick as a bucket, and its eyes, like lanterns, emitted a chilling, eerie light. This is the python they were talking about, a level 3 beast. He immediately noticed the red, alluring markings on its belly, as if they could drip blood. With my current strength, I have no chance against a level 3 beast. Even if I could exchange blows, it would be extremely risky. The python's most terrifying attack was its constriction. Once prey was caught, its fate was essentially sealed. Lin Fan glanced back occasionally, realizing the python's incredible speed. Running in a straight line was unwise. Seeing the shops along the road, he quickly leaped up, scrambled a few steps, and reached the rooftop. The giant python clearly hadn't intended to let Lin Fan off so easily. Its massive body pressed against the wall as it pursued, head held high, forked, and its long, sharp fangs exuding an overwhelming sense of menace. Damn it, I knew all the other beasts were gone. Turns out this level 3 beast has been living nearby, keeping ordinary beasts away. But aren't all beasts supposed to hunt higher level ones? Perhaps pythons really are cold-blooded, preferring to devour live prey. When other beasts appear nearby, they'll simply swallow them whole. That's why no other beasts dare to venture into its territory. A level 3 beast, that's the strongest beast they've encountered so far. If a level 3 hunter encounters a level 3 beast, running away is the best course of action. Hunting it alone is extremely difficult. Only awakened individuals can leverage their superior abilities to contend with such beasts. Thinking this, Lin Fan suddenly swung his arm, sending a ball of flame sweeping towards the python. He underestimated the python's agility. Despite its massive size, it was incredibly nimble, twisting its body to dodge the flames. Soon, Lin Fan plunged into the building ahead, the python following closely behind, rampaging and ignoring any obstacles in its path. Any obstacle seemed fragile in the face of this python-like beast. Even the sharp edges of the surrounding fences rubbed against it, sparks flying from the friction. Lin Fan's eyes widened in astonishment. Its body was incredibly tough, without any weaknesses. Many species have their weak points in their abdomen, but who would have thought this python-like beast had evolved to eliminate that weakness? Suddenly, Lin Fan realized the python-like beast that had been tracking him had vanished. This startled him. Damn it! He feared nothing more than being tracked, but of being suddenly disappeared after a seemingly perfect chase. This didn't mean the beast had fallen behind, it meant it had found another hunting route. Just then, a whooshing sound rang out. The serpentine beast had appeared before him without his noticing, its tail sweeping fiercely towards him with incredible speed, far exceeding his expectations. The force of the attack was immense, producing a deafening explosion in the air. Faced with this situation, Lin Fan didn't hesitate. Gripping his sword, his body ablaze with white flames, he swung it at the serpentine beast's tail. Boom! This strike, imbued with all of Lin Fan's power, was delivered by the enchanted, sharp-tang sword. It didn't pierce the serpent's tail, but instead sparked and clanged with a metallic sound. A tremendous force sent Lin Fan hurtling backward like a cannonball, crashing heavily into the wall with a loud bang. The violent impact caused him to wince in pain. This was the first time he had encountered such a powerful beast since leaving the stronghold to hunt other creatures. However, the python-like beast didn't seem to be unscathed either. Its tail was charred, clearly burned by flames, and it even moved its tail to its mouth, licking it with its liquid-covered forefinger to ease the burning sensation. Lin Fan spat out the blood and foam in his mouth. When he looked at the python-like beast, it had already formed a constricting formation, its massive body surrounding Lin Fan from all sides, blocking all escape routes. It raised its head, looking down at its prey, who was as small as an ant. Its constricting method was simple, either swallow it whole or tighten its body, crushing all the bones in its prey before swallowing it. At this moment, Lin Fan's heart was pounding. This was the first time he had faced danger. It was also the first time he truly felt that not all the beasts in the apocalypse could be easily slaughtered. A disaster that could drive humanity to the brink of extinction could not be simple. But even so, Lin Fan would not surrender. Instead, he unleashed his power, engulfing his entire body in flames, transforming into a human torch. He then raised his head, staring directly at the python-like beast. "You fucking dare to swallow me whole and see if you die." He knew pythons feared fire. Although the creature had evolved into a beast, the previous clash confirmed its continued fear. Fortunately, his fire abilities had undergone a qualitative change with his enhanced spirit. Otherwise, ordinary flames might not have been effective. In the python-like beast's current vision, its prey glowed and radiated intense heat, making it extremely uncomfortable. It opened its mouth, wanting to approach, but the scorching temperature made it wary. Lin Fan gripped his short spear, its surface ablaze, and hurled it fiercely towards the python's eyes. The usually unerring spear encountered a problem. The python's eyes were closed, and its eyelids were covered in scales. With a clang, the spear, which had pierced everything, failed to penetrate the python-like beast's scales. This made Lin Fan realize something profound. The enchanted weapon was indeed sharp, but limited, and its throwing power was somewhat weak, unable to penetrate deeply. The provoked python-like beast was enraged. The weapon hadn't harmed it, only the flames made its eyes feel burning hot. It tightened its body, trying to strangle Lin Fan. But when the range was only half a meter, the flame seared its body in excruciating pain. It lowered its head, hissing angrily at Lin Fan, its large, lantern-like eyes fixed on him, determined to memorize his appearance. With a whoosh, it moved swiftly into the distance, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. "Come back here if you dare," Lin Fan shouted, seemingly arrogant. But his heart pounded uncontrollably, his palms sweating. He had just jumped to the brink of death. How could a level 3 beast be so powerful? Without thinking, he maintained his fiery body and fled quickly. But just as he was about to escape, a terrifying scene unfolded. The python-like beast, which had already left, reappeared from behind, its blood-red maw wide open, charging at incredible speed. It wanted to swallow him whole. Even with his body engulfed in flames, it still wanted to take the risk. Damn it! In an instant, the python-like beast swept past Lin Fan's location, and Lin Fan vanished from his spot, swallowed whole. New Monday, please continue reading and try to get on the charts. Chapter 34. Who on earth came up with this? The python-like beast was fiercely predatory. Knowing its prey was troublesome, it still wanted to kill it. Perhaps the light and heat emanating from its prey were unbearable for the python, but as long as I was fast enough, I could finish it off in the blink of an eye. The python-like beast raised its head, intending to forcefully digest its prey, when suddenly, a sharp pain swept over it, engulfing its entire body. It writhed on the ground, its blood-red maw gaping open, trying to vomit up its prey. Meanwhile, Lin Fan, now swallowed by the python, gripped his knife and plunged it deep into the python-like beast's flesh, white flame searing its blood and flesh. Damn it, I thought we could have some sportsmanship and stop here, then fight again later. But you're really ungrateful, resorting to a sneak attack. Now you think you can spit me out? That's impossible. Lin Fan's face hardened, gripping the hilt of his knife tightly, constantly brandishing the flames, charring the snake's fragile flesh black. This tastes amazing, it even smells like meat. Is snake meat really that delicious? He had never eaten snake meat before, only heard others say it was delicious. Now it seemed the possibility of it being delicious was indeed high. Suddenly, everything turned upside down. Lin Fan, trapped in the python's mouth, felt like he was spinning. He knew this was the python beast struggling in pain. He smiled smugly. Inviting a god is easy, sending him away is hard. Swallowing me is simple, but spitting me out? Don't even dream about it. In Lin Fan's eyes, a beast is still a beast. Did it see him engulfed in flames, yet it swallowed him without a second thought? Anyone with a brain wouldn't do such a thing. A python? A colossal creature, a level 3 mutated beast, you son of a bitch. Even if I stay inside your body all day, I'll wear you down to death. Lin Fan was a man of principle, always adhering to the principle of stopping short of a fight, but now, encountering such an unreasonable creature that liked to ambush, he wouldn't forgive it easily. Now, the python-like mutated beast was writhing in agony, as if it had gone mad. Even so, it couldn't alleviate the pain within its body. Its massive body kept crashing into the surrounding buildings, further damaging the already badly damaged shops. But even so, it still couldn't find relief. The python, writhing in agony, hissed and howled. If any survivors saw this, they would definitely exclaim in shock, "Good heavens, how did such a huge spicy snack end up like this?" The python-like mutated beast was filled with regret. If it had another chance, it would swear to the heavens that it would never have swallowed the thing. The pain was unbearable. What kind of rubbish had it swallowed? Lin Fan, trapped inside the python-like beast, couldn't see what was happening outside, but he knew it was in great pain. Looking at the charred parts, he pulled out his short spear and thrust it upwards. With a soft thud, the spear sank deep into the fragile flesh. Outwardly tough but inwardly weak, this was the weakness of all creatures. Even a level 3 beast couldn't stop him now that he had an opportunity. Grabbing the spear for support and ensuring he wouldn't be thrown off, he raised his sword, stepping on the soft flesh, and began wildly hacking. The blade, covered in white flames, caused terrifying destruction. I'm hacking. Lin Fan showed no mercy to the python-like beast. The moment it swallowed him, all compassion vanished. The python's body was now a bloody mess, thick blood splattered everywhere. He didn't venture deeper, because going further would lead to the python's stomach, where extremely strong stomach acid could corrode anything at an incredible speed, even bones would be easily digested. How long had passed? The earth-shattering rolling stopped. Silent. No movement. Lin Fan looked towards the exit and saw the python with its mouth open, remaining in an open position, seemingly dead. However, Lin Fan hadn't gained any evolution points. He was currently at level 2, hunting a level 1 beast had yielded no results, but hunting a level 3 beast would definitely be rewarding. Playing dead? Absolutely playing dead. The python probably felt it couldn't get its prey out of its body, so it endured the excruciating pain, feigning death, hoping the prey would come out on its own. Thinking this, Lin Fan sneered. He hadn't expected beasts to be so cunning. He'd learned something, he'd definitely have to be more careful in the future. Beasts might seem brainless, but they were actually quite clever. Then, gripping the hilt of his sword, without a second thought, he continued hacking wildly inside the python's body. The enchanted tang sword couldn't cleave the python's scales, but inside, that was where the tang sword shone. Sure enough, the python, which had pretended to be motionless and dead, began to struggle wildly again, even more violently and frantically than before. Lin Fan interpreted this as a sign that the python was about to die. It knew it was about to die. After an unknown amount of time, a notification appeared. He knew he had successfully hunted it down. Evolution points +2, Lin Fan frowned slightly, somewhat dissatisfied. Hunting a beast above his level only yielded such a small reward, it was completely disproportionate to the effort. Now, the flesh at the python's throat was severed, as if its entire head had separated from its body, The only connection was the scales. He wouldn't believe anyone else who said it was dead, or that it was just pretending to be dead. The only thing he could believe was whether it had evolution points. Without evolution points, it was nothing. He sheathed his short spear and tang sword, then headed towards the gaping maw. The beast burst forth, its jaws wide open, and he couldn't help but marvel at its destructive power. The surrounding streets, already dilapidated from desolation, were now a horrific sight. He located the red markings, cut it open, and extracted a blood crystal. He noticed that all the blood crystals were the same size, not varying according to the size of the beast. This was good. If they were sized according to the python's size, the blood crystal would be as large as a boulder. What a pity, such a large body, yet I can't take it back. If only I could. Lin Fan gazed at the corpse. With a beast's size, the flesh alone would likely feed the survivors of the fortress for a while. However, taking the corpse back was impossible. Even if he could drag it, the blood would inevitably attract a large number of beasts on the return journey. Clearly, the most precious item was still the level 3 blood crystal. He cut open the python's scales to reveal the flesh, and the flame seared it, soon releasing a fragrant aroma. While eating, he surveyed his surroundings. It wasn't the original location. The python had taken it elsewhere. The building next to the Mayaoan County People's Library caught his attention. He walked towards the library, intending to stay there. His plan was that leaving the python's carcass there would attract other beasts, allowing him to lie in wait and, if the situation was right, hunt them down. He needed to maximize the use of his prey. He didn't want his hard-earned level 3 beast to not only be left unharnessed but also stolen by other beasts. He entered the library. Although 10 years had passed, a murky odor permeated the library, but this odor still carried the scent of books. The library had 3 floors. He closed the library door, then stood at the entrance, looking around. He heard no sound, confirming the absence of any strange beasts. It made sense. Strange beasts preferred meat and disliked reading, so why would they go to a library? Sigh, what a pity for this place. This is the cradle of human civilization. If I ever have my own stronghold, I will definitely take all the books here back. He knew the value of books. From ancient times to the present, they have held immense value. Every valuable book is a crystallization of the wisdom of our predecessors, and should not be buried and lost. If Grandpa Chenhali were here, he would surely show heartache. After all, the books here were covered in dust. Humans have goals. The existence of a stronghold should be full of vitality. Although the city was abandoned and occupied by strange beasts, the stronghold was protected by walls. The area may seem small, but with proper development, it could become a decent living area. Lin Fan thought that if he were to manage the stronghold, he would definitely want the following things: a bathhouse, a Sichuan restaurant, a hot pot restaurant, an internet cafe, and a karaoke bar. Wait a minute. One must learn to enjoy life. If you work hard all day, you must then work hard to relieve your fatigue at night. Otherwise, if you're exhausted after a long day and just lie around sleeping, where's the joy in life? He went up to the 3rd floor. It was still the library. The sheer number of books in a county library was enough to show that this place valued culture. He walked to the window and looked out at the street. The corpse of the strange beast was still there, attracting no other beasts. But he wasn't worried. He'd take his time. Eventually, some beasts would be unable to resist coming. He guessed that the reason no beasts had appeared yet was because the python's lingering power still kept the lower-level beasts from showing themselves. Waiting was tedious. Lin Fan went to the bookshelf, intending to find a book from this world. He liked reading, especially more stimulating books. He didn't particularly like books that required deep thought. He wasn't very intelligent to begin with, and using his limited intelligence on books would give him a headache. Miscellaneous books was the general term for this bookshelf. He randomly picked up a book, his expression subtly changing upon glance. Ironhead Kung Fu. Holy crap, this thing even exists. Lin Fan was stunned, as if he'd seen a ghost. If this were in a library on Earth, it would be met with a barrage of criticism and insults. He looked at the back. Published by Mayaoan Publishing House, priced at 5 yuan. Holy crap, 5 yuan. Is a 5 yuan martial arts manual real? He opened the first page, which contained an introduction to the author of Ironhead Kung Fu, Li Haitian, a lay disciple of Shaolin, a renowned martial arts master in China, skilled in Ironhead Kung Fu, and creator of his own Ironhead fist and foot technique. In a martial arts competition held by a Chinese television station, He defeated 4 famous martial arts masters, but unfortunately, he was challenged by a member of the film crew and knocked down with a single punch. Lin Fan, regarding this introduction, Lin Fan thought that the world he had transmigrated to was truly inclusive and honest, with its battle records clearly stated and the price very fair. He casually flipped through it. Good heavens! Not only did it contain detailed cultivation methods, but it even included breathing techniques, teaching practitioners how to circulate their energy. Of course, there were small notes stating that practitioners needed to persevere, and it might take 10 years to achieve some success. Furthermore, the book said it wouldn't be responsible for any problems that arose during cultivation. Every young man harbors a martial arts dream. Even if they can't become a great hero, they shouldn't give up that dream. I have skill proficiency, can I really master this? Without any special abilities, this book would likely end up either used for wiping his butt or as a table weight. But he had nothing better to do. He wanted to see how it went. He read it carefully, memorizing the contents. When first cultivating, you need to practice breathing techniques, adjust your breathing, and then gently bump against a wall or tree. After several bumps, practice breathing techniques again to adjust the pain in your head, and continue bumping. Following the instructions, Lin Fan walked to the wall, breathing rhythmically according to the breathing technique instructions, and then gently bumped against the wall to see the effect. If anyone saw this, they would definitely exclaim in surprise. Holy crap, unexpectedly, there are still idiots in this apocalypse who believe in this stuff. If you look closely at the top left corner of the book cover, you'll find a line of text, Martial Arts Fantasy. It's blatantly telling you that this is just bragging. Bang! 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 After 3 impacts, there was no reaction. However, Lin Fan still tried to circulate his breathing technique and banged his head against the wall again. Not long after, something amazing happened. Skill, Iron Head Kung Fu, 0/100, holy crap, all his words were reduced to just these 2. He stared wide-eyed, completely dumbfounded, as if he had seen a ghost, but then he felt relieved. This cheat is pretty powerful. He was truly stunned. The appearance of basic swordsmanship was expected, after all, it made sense, but this Iron Head Kung Fu, well, it still made sense. It's normal for my head to harden after I hit it. Lin Fan didn't continue trying to increase his proficiency, but instead went to the bookshelf and continued flipping through the books. He pulled out book after book, Iron Shirt, Grasshopper, Ladder to the Clouds, Mighty Vajrapalm, Heart Mind Ki Hununguang, Dragon Claw Hand. Even more frightening were the names of some of the martial arts techniques. They were downright intimidating in Ikayankangong, Hunbian Baojian, Buddha's Palm. Looking at the back of these books, published by Maya Aung Publishing House, priced at 5 yuan. Priced at 6 yuan. Priced at 4 yuan. Lin Fan stared silently at the books before him, lost in thought, unable to recover for a long time. After a moment, he finally couldn't help but exclaim, who came up with this? I can understand Iron Head Kung Fu, after all, that's reasonable, but these things, they're starting to fool people. Lin Fan shook his head, laughing at his own behavior. If he believed even this stuff, he would truly be a fool. He then found a bag to pack the books in. Why are people always deceived? Because people always harbor the mentality that maybe they are the only ones who won't be fooled. Suddenly, a noise came from outside. Lin Fan put these matters aside, walked to the window, and looked out at the street. Just as he had expected, strange beasts had already appeared, 4,000 plus words, combined. Please continue reading, thank you. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35, The process is not important, the result is the most important. The beast that appeared in his sight was very wary, moving cautiously and stopping frequently, not daring to rush to the corpse immediately. Even a dead high-level beast retains a deterrent effect in lower-level beasts. So, high-level beasts dominate low-level beasts based on their own power, Lin Fan observed. Humans actually know a lot about beasts, but that's based on 10 years of local knowledge, so it can't be said to be 100% accurate. Therefore, he had to observe and integrate his observations to arrive at a best conclusion. Why is it being so cowardly? Just go and eat it all up, Lin Fan muttered to himself. Soon, in Lin Fan's view, The beast finally reached the corpse. Instead of devouring it, it sniffed it, then turned and ran. This situation puzzled Lin Fan greatly. Suddenly, he thought of a possibility: the behavior of ants. Upon discovering prey that is too large, they quickly return to find helpers to carry all the prey away. Sure enough, not long after, a large number of strange beasts appeared ahead. Seeing this, Lin Fan slowly drew his sword, preparing to slaughter them all. But suddenly, he slowly released his grip on the hilt. A level 3 strange beast. He noticed a level 3 strange beast among the horde. Clearly, the beast hadn't been enjoying the python's carcass alone, it had gone back to its leader. Good little brother. Such a little brother deserves praise. If it were human, all thoughts of leadership would be forgotten. Enjoying the carcass alone would be the priority. He didn't move. Although he had hunted a level 3 strange beast before, it was by chance, not through his own true strength. Moreover, even if he managed to kill a level 3 beast through trickery, the effort required was disproportionate to the reward. It was not worth a risk. But he had spent so much time and effort waiting in the python's mouth to finally kill it, and now he was letting them benefit? The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. Lin Fan clenched his fists, a sense of injustice washing over him. Suddenly, a thought struck him. The python-like beast was a level 3 beast, yet there were no other beasts around. This meant the python had claimed the area as its territory, while the other beasts clearly had their own. A somewhat immature idea formed in his mind, becoming increasingly plausible, and he couldn't help but chuckle. The level 3 beast in the pack, seeing the massive python corpse ahead, suddenly gleamed with a fierce light in its eyes. It turned its head and nodded with satisfaction to its subordinate who had reported the situation. The reporting beast, seemingly understanding human nature, raised its head, looking rather smug. It seemed to be saying, "You little Karami, did you see that? I've done something." The boss gave me a look of praise, a praise you'll never receive in your lives. When the boss takes the first bite, I'll definitely get the second, aren't you envious? Suddenly, the enormous python-like beast's corpse began to move, as if dragged by something, rapidly heading into the distance. The level 3 beast in the pack was somewhat bewildered. The corpse moved, but quickly, it roared angrily, as if saying, "Who dares to steal my food right in front of me?" They're courting death. In a flash, the beast pack scattered. At this moment, Lin Fan, dragging the python-like beast's tail, sprinted forward, his running style stylish, his strides long and confident. Showing no fear of injury, for he was very steady. The increase in agility is truly domineering. Even dragging such a massive corpse, he remained incredibly fast. Listen closely, and you could hear the roars of the beasts behind him, and the dull thud of their limbs pounding the ground. He knew these beasts were furious. After all, he had dragged away their food. It was like cuckolding someone in front of them. Now that they were minotaurs, how could they tolerate it? Lin Fan had been searching for his target. The territory of the alien beasts. If he could find just one more level 3 alien beast, the great battle would be complete. After an unknown amount of time, Lin Fan's eyes lit up. He had spotted his target. A herd of alien beasts appeared ahead, a large group, and the leader was definitely a level 3 beast. After all, other things could be misleading, but the markings around its abdomen were unmistakable. Red stripes. This level 3 beast looked somewhat like a hyena, commonly known as a master of anal scratching. Strange, how did this hyena end up here? Or was it like the hyenas kept in the county zoo 10 years ago, specifically to perform anal scratching for tourists? That was a possibility. But these things were no longer important, because his commotion had already attracted the attention of the level 3 alien beast, the hyena. The handsome hyena and its minions were patrolling its territory. It held considerable prestige in this area. It loved to encounter its own kind who didn't know their own mortality, then attack them, unleashing its anal scratching skills for a fatal blow. Suddenly, the hyena spotted the human charging towards it. Its eyes lit up. Oh, the hyena had an idea. Gouging out a human's anus was something from a very, very long time ago. Whenever it recalled it, it felt as if its mouth still tasted that foul odor. White teeth in, yellow teeth out. That meant it had reached the scrotum. But quickly, the approaching human dropped what he was holding, turned sharply, and in a few swift movements, leaped onto the rooftop and vanished without a trace. The level 3 hyena was briefly stunned, then roared angrily, as if saying, "Chase him down." The pursuing beasts were about to move, but were stopped by the hyena again. Wait a minute, its attention was drawn to the python's corpse. Smelling the blood and flesh, the hyena couldn't help but drool. Just as it led its beast minions close to the python's carcass, the group of beasts that had been chasing Lin Fan also appeared. In an instant, the two sides faced off, both growling low as they spoke, as if threatening each other. "This is our prey, get out of here." A level 3 hyena emerged. A level 3 elephant followed suit. As the leader of their pack, it was time for them to negotiate. The hyena, having reached level 3, was many times larger and looked far more ferocious, yet it still appeared tiny next to the elephant. This elephant was unusual. It had bony spurs on its back, and hard armor resembling small pebbles had grown on its sides. Was this an elephant? Well, let's just call it an elephant for now, it's just evolved. The hyena growled, "This is mine. Get out of here if you don't want me to tear your ass out." The elephant swung its trunk. "Tear my ass out? Are you going to jump up and bite my knee?" Lin Fan, hiding on the rooftop, cautiously peeked out, observing the situation below. Seeing the two level 3 beasts growling, he assumed they were exchanging similar messages. At the same time, he discovered a problem. The beasts had brains, but when faced with food, their brains seemed less effective. Hyena, damn it. Elephant, you're asking for it. Hyena, take it. Elephant, kill it. The brief exchange failed to reach a reconciliation. As if receiving some kind of signal, the two groups of beasts charged wildly at each other, instantly clashing in a bloodbath. "Good fight," Lin Fan exclaimed inwardly. This was a war he had orchestrated. He also silently thought that if the python beast were still alive, it would be very gratified. Even in death, it had still caused a fight between two level 3 beasts. This profound love was truly touching. He temporarily ignored the level 3 beast fight and observed the battles among other beasts. Ordinary red-blooded beast. Level 1 beast. Level 2 beast. He saw numerous level 2 beasts tearing at level 1 beasts, while the level 1 beasts were tearing at red-blooded beasts. As for the red-blooded beasts, he gripped his short spear and glanced at the level 3 beasts completely absorbed in the battle. He thought that if he was careful, he shouldn't attract too much attention. In an instant, he hurled the spear at a level 2 beast. The level 2 beast was frantically tearing at the head of a level 1 beast when suddenly, with a soft thud, the spear pierced its skull. Before it even felt what had happened, it was pulled up, lifted off its ground, and flown onto the rooftop. Evolution point +1, Lin Fan smiled as he looked at the level 2 beast, its eyes wide with fury. He pulled out the spear, extracted the blood crystal, tossed the corpse aside, and continued his search. As the saying goes, when the snipe and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. He was now the fisherman. Although his actions had indeed attracted the attention of the beasts, those that noticed him, even if they wanted to rush forward, were blocked by other beasts. For some beasts, they didn't care who attacked, they only had eyes for him. Evolution point +1 Evolution point +1 In just a few minutes, Lin Fan had harvested another 6 evolution points. After adding all the evolution points, all 3 attributes broke through the 40 mark. The change brought about by this improvement was huge and astonishing. Others hunted beasts for blood crystals and meat to slowly improve, but Lin Fan's improvement was a comprehensive +1 to all 3 attributes. Even if someone had a rocket, they couldn't achieve this level of improvement. Lin Fan continued searching. Is that all? Just these level 2 beasts? Lin Fan searched very carefully, but unfortunately, he really couldn't find any. If there were no level 2 beasts, it would be really meaningless. The level 1 beasts were like trash, not even worth paying attention to. Finally, he moved his position and observed the battle between the hyena and the elephant beast. The hyena beast was indeed a master of anal scratching. After not paying attention for a while, the elephant beast's buttocks were already a bloody mess, but the hyena also had many injuries. Bang! Just then, the elephant-like beast's trunk slammed the hyena-like beast against the wall. The massive impact worsened the hyena-like beast's injuries, tearing open a large gash in its abdomen. This is bad. This hyena-like beast is no match for the elephant-like beast. There's a significant difference between level 3 beasts. Lin Fan frowned, realizing he couldn't stand idly by. Otherwise, the hyena-like beast would inevitably be hunted down, while the elephant-like beast would remain unscathed. Without hesitation, taking advantage of the elephant-like beast's back being turned, he raised his short spear, its surface covered in flames, and hurled it with a powerful throw. The spear streaked through the air like a white flame before piercing the elephant-like beast's rear with a soft thud. A painful howl erupted. The elephant-like beast raised its trunk, clearly in agony. Lin Fan quickly pulled on the rope, yanking the spear out. The moment he pulled it out, the elephant-like beast turned around, looking towards the rooftop. But in that instant, something terrifying happened. The seemingly dying hyena suddenly leaped up, opened its blood-red maw, and shoved its mouth into the elephant's rear end, frantically gnawing and tearing at it, dragging out its bloody intestines. The elephant, in excruciating pain, collapsed to the ground, crushing the hyena's legs. The elephant scrambled to its feet, turned, and raised its heavy hooves, ready to crush the hyena. But at that moment, Lin Fan seized the opportunity, hurling his short spear. With a sickening thud, it plunged into the elephant's rear end, flames instantly igniting within its body. A loud scream erupted. As Lin Fan pulled back the spear, the elephant turned its rear end towards the crippled hyena. Even with its legs broken, the hyena still possessed a fighting spirit. Remarkably, it used its backward momentum to leap up and shove its entire head inside. Lin Fan, hiding on the rooftop, was completely stunned by this scene. What a brutal battle. It was truly a fight to the death. But at this moment, Lin Fan seized his opportunity. He drew his sword, leaped from the rooftop, flames engulfing his tang sword, and plunged it deep into the elephant-like beast's head. With a sharp pull, the wound spread, slicing open half its skull. At this moment, he knew he had it in the bag. Boom. The elephant-like beast crashed to the ground. Evolution points +2 killed it. He really killed it. Lin Fan was incredibly excited. Although it still wasn't exactly a top-tier weapon, when hunting beasts, the result mattered, the process didn't. He looked at the elephant's rear end. The hyena's head was still stuck inside, its body writhing. It must be stuck too tightly, unable to pull out for the time being, or perhaps it was gnawing on the flesh. Thinking of this, he raised his tang sword. Before the hyena-like beast could react, he swung his sword with terrifying force, cleaving the hyena-like beast in two at the waist. Evolution points +2, Lin Fan was already laughing hysterically inside. A huge gain. A truly huge gain. The fighting beast stopped, staring dumbfounded at their fallen leaders. They were all bewildered. Where did this human come from? Before they could react, Lin Fan, knife in hand, charged towards the group of beasts. A group of level 1 beasts and red-blooded beasts were practically cannon fodder. His purpose was to obtain the blood crystal. Even if he didn't need it, others could. Baofeng barrier crack, the metal gate slowly opened. Several figures crept out of the air raid shelter, crouching low, their eyes warily scanning the surroundings. They were afraid some beasts were still roaming. After confirming there were no problems, they notified the people inside. Brother Han, there are no beasts outside. A moment later, the large group of soldiers who had been hiding in the air raid shelter emerged. They looked up at the sky, basking in the sunlight, and took a deep breath. The air was thick with the smell of gunpowder mixed with a stench of blood. Han Ping's expression was calm, but his somber gaze swept over his surroundings. Seeing the fortress he once commanded reduced to this state, his heart bled. In the apocalypse, having one's own fortress was of paramount importance. But now, it was all gone. Even the survivors he had enslaved had been devoured by the mutated beasts, and how many remained alive was unknown. Now, he had 7 awakened ones following him, including himself, and over 20 hunters. Find a vehicle. See if there's one that can move. In the apocalypse, vehicles were crucial. Without one, movement was impossible. Once targeted by mutated beasts, no one was confident they could outrun them on foot. Yes, sir, the group then began to move. Han Ping arrived at the collapsed city wall, his face grim as he looked at the breach. He was cursing his former boss in his mind. What a shoddy job. It was bad enough that he'd ruined others, but now it was him who had been the victim. With their manpower, repairing the wall was impossible. This fortress was useless. After a long while, the group who had gone to find the vehicles returned to report. Brother Han, we found the vehicles, 3 pickup trucks and 1 van. Han Ping nodded. Good. What about the firearms? We have them all, although firearms weren't very useful to hunters or awakened individuals who had reached a certain level, they were deadly weapons to ordinary people. Han Ping said, gather all the supplies. Our goal is to capture Miaoan Fortress. Yes, sir. The men's faces showed excitement and anticipation. They knew a tough battle was about to begin. Of course, capturing Mayaoan Fortress wouldn't be easy, and a direct assault wouldn't work. The only option was to find a way to take advantage of the enemy's momentary lapse in concentration, seize the fortress's administrators, and eliminate any threats. Once that happened, Mayaoan Fortress would be in their grasp. As for the other survivors, they were just a bunch of lowly creatures, incapable of causing any real trouble. Han Ping clenched his fists, his gaze unwavering. Mayaoan Fortress, Daddy's here, please continue reading, vote, and add a chapter 5,000 words, thank you. Hank Sinkiwayu, Mayday Sleepless, Yijian Kinkson, and other readers are welcome to donate, thank you. Chapter 36 A Triumphant Return, Envy by All. The streets were littered with the corpses of strange beasts. Lin Fan skillfully dug out the blood crystals from the beasts' bodies, taking stock of his harvest. 7 level 2 beast blood crystals. 11 level 1 beast blood crystals. Adding the 2 level 3 beast blood crystals he had just acquired, he now had 3 level 3 blood crystals. As long as you're willing to work hard, you'll reap the rewards. Judging from the current situation, that was indeed the case. He checked his own stats, level 2, 14/30, Constitution, 48.39, Agility, 46.31, Spirit, 44.9, Ability, Flame, White Flame, Skills, Blacksmithing, Perfect, Throwing, Perfect, Basic Knife Skill, Perfect, Ironhead Technique, 0/100. His current attributes were already quite strong. Level 3 beast corpses are still quite valuable. Looking at the 3 beast corpses before him, he knew he wouldn't take the hyena's corpse back. What kind of stuff would a specialist who specializes in dissecting anuses take out? Considering the value of the level 3 beast carcass, he figured taking it back wouldn't be a problem, and selling it to someone else was fine too. As long as he didn't eat it himself, it didn't matter who ate it. He considered using the python carcass for another extreme temptation, but then thought better of it. Fortune favors the bold, and he should be content with his success once. After all, he wouldn't be so lucky every time. What if he encountered a clever beast that knew the python carcass was large enough to overeat, and instead of sharing it, it turned around and chased after him? He had already experienced the consequences of being chased by a level 3 beast firsthand, and he really didn't want to experience it again. He drove the pickup truck, moved the elephant carcass to the back, and as the weight increased, the wheels looked like they were about to go flat, but luckily the pickup truck was durable and could handle whatever it took. He threw the hyena's carcass, split in two, onto the truck, and then searched among the carcasses for any level 2 beast carcasses that seemed relatively intact. He would take any he could carry. He decided to return to the stronghold. During his time away, he hadn't eaten or slept well, but thankfully, the gains were quite good, making his efforts worthwhile. He'd go back and rest for a while, practicing his Ironhead Kung Fu and other martial arts manuals. The beasts were right there, they weren't going to run away. No rush, no panic. He got in the car, stepped on the gas, and headed out of the city. He encountered some beasts along the way, but these were no longer of any interest to him. Killing them or not made no difference, offering no benefit. Of course, if he encountered a level 2 beast, he would definitely stop to hunt it, since they were evolution points that could improve his strength. After Lin Fan left, a large group of red-blooded beasts roamed the streets. When they saw the enormous python corpse lying ahead, their eyes widened, a fierce glint in their gazes. Then, like mad dogs, they pounced and devoured it greedily. If they could speak, they would definitely shout thanks to heaven for this gift. The world is unpredictable. The corpse of a level 3 alien beast attracted countless other alien beasts to fight over it, only to be easily snatched up by a group of ordinary red-blooded alien beasts passing by. That's fate. You may not believe in fate, but fate is always there. The fortress. Survivors always lingered on the city walls, their faces filled with envy whenever they saw someone return alive with a corpse of an alien beast. They desperately hoped that the survivors who returned with their bountiful harvest would share some meat with them. But the probability was low. Few people would be so generous. Wang Dabao was constantly cleaning other people's cars. This was his way of life, hoping to earn some food with his hard work. Dabao, what's the point of cleaning other people's cars? Did you see that group of survivors who came earlier? They brought back a carload of alien beasts, hunted by Lin Fan, but do you think they even remember you? A survivor, as unfortunate as Wang Dabao, spoke up. Wang Dabao said, It doesn't matter if they remember or not. I just need to do it a few more times, and eventually they'll remember me." Hearing this, the survivor's lips curled into a smirk. Wang Dabao lowered his head and continued washing the car. Not long after, exclamations rang out. "Someone's back!" Every time a vehicle returned, it would elicit gasps from the crowd, who would then huddle along the edge of the city wall, watching the returning vehicle. Soon, the returning vehicle was transported to the city wall. "Holy crap, so many beast corpses, this is a level 3 beast. Such a massive size, how did they do that?" The surrounding survivors were stunned. Although they had suffered greatly, they still had their eyes. After living in the apocalypse for so many years, they had seen everything, and nothing was surprising. Lin Fan opened the car door, head held high, and got out. The survivors recognized Lin Fan, and they were all extremely shocked. Wasn't he just a newly awakened being? How could he hunt level 3 beasts? Everyone had a question mark above their heads. But all the questions remained buried in his heart. Lin Fan glanced at the crowd and found Wang Dabao washing a car not far away. He called out loudly, "Wang Dabao, come here." Wang Dabao, who was washing his car, was startled by the voice. He naturally knew Lin Fan had returned. Although Lin Fan had said he would be paid, he didn't know if Lin Fan would remember. After all, how could someone as insignificant as him be noticed? Now, hearing his name called, he straightened up, his wet hands wiping his clothes, a mixture of nervousness and anticipation on his face, as if he were thinking about something. The surrounding survivors stared at Wang Dabao. How could a car-washing idiot attract the attention of an awakened? This puzzled them. Of course, the survivor who knew the situation was slightly agape, somewhat bewildered. Could there really be some benefit? Lin Fan pulled the carcass of a level 2 alien beast from the back of the pickup truck and threw it over, smiling. "This is your payment. I keep my word. From now on, my car will be yours to wash." A gasp. Shock. Everyone was stunned by Lin Fan's actions. Some stammered to themselves, just because Wang Dabao washed his car, he got a level 2 alien beast? Is this a dream? Even Wang Dabao was intimidated by Lin Fan's generosity, staring wide-eyed at the level 2 alien beast's corpse on the ground. "For me, yes. For you, no. This is too much, really too much? Washing a car is simple, how can you give me something so valuable?" Wang Dabao hurriedly waved his hands, unable to believe what he was seeing. Lin Fan smiled and shook his head. He could understand. When others couldn't hunt alien beasts, their corpses were very valuable, but for someone like him who could kill alien beasts at will, these things were really nothing special. If the car wasn't so small, he could have brought back a whole truckload. "Alright, I said it's for you, so don't say any more. From now on, you'll be in charge of maintaining my car. Can you do a good job?" Lin Fan asked. "Yes," Wang Dabao said firmly. Lin Fan nodded with satisfaction. Opportunities are for the diligent. There's a difference between doing something that might not yield results and not doing something if there are no results. At that moment, everyone looked at Wang Dabao with envy, wishing they could take his place. "It's just washing cars, we can wash cars too." Soon, news spread that Lin Fan had brought back the corpse of a level 3 alien beast. Lu Shan and his sister were shocked. How did he hunt it? How did he do it? Don't underestimate Lu Shan just because he's a level 3 hunter. Against a level 3 alien beast, his chances are only 50-50 or 40-60, and it also depends on the type of level 3 alien beast. If it's a primitive, enormous alien beast, the chances are even lower. Only awakened beings can reliably hunt alien beasts of the same level. Lu Shan realized that Lin Fan was truly mysterious in every way. There was something wrong with him, something very wrong. When old Wang learned that Lin Fan had returned, he hurriedly ran towards the outer wall, with little hope following him excitedly. When Zhou Shichen, the fortress manager, learned that Lin Fan had returned with the corpse of a level 3 alien beast, he was equally shocked. However, he remained more composed than anyone else. Bringing it back demonstrated the ability to hunt level 3 alien beasts. This made Zhou Shichen value Lin Fan even more. The stability of a fortress requires strong members. Inside the Miaoan fortress, the other awakened individuals also learned of this and were equally shocked. None of them dared to underestimate Lin Fan anymore. Perhaps he was stronger than they imagined. Inside the inner wall, at home. Home is the most comfortable place. Old Wang, your tomato and egg soup is really delicious. Being able to eat home-cooked meals was truly blissful. Lin Fan ate 3 large bowls of rice by himself. Old Wang chuckled, "Eat slowly, I cooked a lot of rice." "How was your trip? Did you encounter any danger?" Lin Fan replied, "It was a close call, but thankfully safe. The situation outside was much more complicated than I imagined, but everything went smoothly without any danger. The only regret is that the car we took was too small, so we couldn't bring back the carcass of a python-like beast. It's a real shame, such a waste." Little Hope listened obediently, her round eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Uncle, was that beast very scary?" Lin Fan smiled. "Of course it was scary. It eats children." "Ah." Little Hope's eyes widened, her mouth agape, clearly terrified. "By the way, I had a group of people bring back the beast's carcass. Did you receive it?" Lin Fan asked. "Yes, I did. They said you would give them 2 beast carcasses as payment. I didn't think they were lying, so I gave them the carcass," Old Wang said. He didn't doubt the payment. Those people were just ordinary people like him. If they were lying, they wouldn't have faced the consequences of lying. "Okay, that's good. Keep an eye on the situation at the outer wall. With Baofeng Fortress breached, I think many survivors will come over. I'm not afraid of anything else, but I'm worried about them having ulterior motives." Lin Fan felt more comfortable at Miaowen Fortress and didn't want anything to happen there. "I know, I'll keep an eye on it," Old Wang nodded. He was now Lin Fan's personal butler and caretaker, having escaped the hardships of being a survivor at the outer wall and become someone everyone envied. This was something Wang Quan hadn't expected. Lin Fan said, "You should eat more of the beast meat. You're still just ordinary people now. You must have enough strength to help me in the future." He knew that fighting alone wouldn't work, he needed his own team. So starting to cultivate them now wasn't too late. He took out some level 1 blood crystals. "Use these blood crystals first. Try to become a hunter as soon as possible. If you can become an awakener, then you'll take off," Lin Fan said. In his mind, the only people he could recruit to form his team were these few. Wang Dabao, who washed his car, could be considered one of them. He was observant, hard-working, and didn't look like a treacherous person. The Lu Shan siblings were harder to predict, they'd have to wait and see. Awakened Yaozu was also someone he was trying to win over. Her support abilities were good, and she'd definitely be useful in the future. Wang Quan nodded, knowing Lin Fan was grooming him. Old Wang was often moved to tears by Lin Fan's actions. His current life was something he never dared to dream of before. Not only was he well fed and clothed, but he was also being pushed forward, moving towards becoming a hunter. As for becoming an awakened, frankly, that was something he didn't dare to dream of. Becoming a hunter was already a great achievement. "Give me all these blood crystals, aren't you going to use them?" Wang Quan asked. "Look at my current strength, do I still need these blood crystals?" Hearing this, Old Wang thought about it and realized it was true. After dinner, Lin Fan left home. Walking down the street, he casually took out a level 2 blood crystal, put it in his mouth like candy, and felt the changes after the blood crystal entered his abdomen. His physique improved by 0.1. It wasn't a huge increase, but any improvement was a good thing. This wasn't an improvement from just 1 blood crystal, it would require consuming several to achieve the same effect. Soon, he arrived at Yaozu's residence and immediately saw her tending to her flowers and plants in the courtyard. He had to admit, seeing a cute girl in the apocalypse was truly a lucky thing. "Miss Yaozu, busy?" Lin Fan asked with a gentle smile. Yaozu looked up, saw Lin Fan, and politely smiled. "Nothing much, come in and talk." Lin Fan entered the courtyard and took out a blood crystal he had prepared beforehand. "Miss Yaozu, thank you for enchanting my weapon. This is a level 3 blood crystal, this is my reward for you." He knew Yaozu was a second-tier awakened one, and giving her a level 3 blood crystal was something Lin Fan had planned beforehand. If he wanted to recruit her into his team, he had to be generous and show her his magnanimity. "No need, it was just a small favor, no need to be so polite." Yaozu waved her hand. She knew how valuable a level 3 blood crystal was. When Lin Fan took it out to thank her, she was a little stunned. "Take it, really, no need." "You take it, really, no need." Yaozu was very embarrassed. Enchanting was a simple matter, truly a small favor. Unable to give the blood crystal away, Lin Fan suddenly became anxious, grabbing Yaozu's hand and stuffing it into her palm. To be honest, her hand was soft and smooth, quite nice. He stopped there, letting go, needing to maintain his image. "I'm leaving now, having delivered the blood crystal. Lin Fan waved and hurriedly left. There would be many more opportunities to interact in the future. There was no need to be too eager on the second meeting. Not only would it be ineffective, but it might also scare her away. If she really avoided him, all his efforts would be wasted. Yaozu watched Lin Fan's departing figure, then looked down at the blood crystal in her hand. A level 3 blood crystal. He really can hunt level 3 beasts. She carefully put the blood crystal away. Open space. Lin Fan consumed all the level 2 blood crystals. His physique and agility improved. His mental strength, however, unexpectedly increased by 0.1. This was truly unbelievable and incredibly difficult for him. He had consumed so many blood crystals before, yet his mental strength had never improved. This was the only exception. It seemed that awakened beings were indeed not so easy to appear. At this moment, Lin Fan had many bricks laid out in front of him. He was going to start practicing his iron head technique. However, before practicing, he took out a book from his pocket, the Tathagata palm. He wanted to see if this Tathagata palm would appear in his skill bar. He opened the book and read it carefully. The introduction at the beginning left him somewhat confused. Originating from the great wisdom and enlightenment attained by Buddha Shakyamuni during his pursuit of the way, combining the spirit of heaven, the energy of earth, and human power to maintain the 3 realms, guiding evil towards good. Legend has it that Buddha, in order to save all sentient beings and relieve calamities, passed down a set of unparalleled martial arts, shaking the ages and possessing power capable of countering natural disasters and slaying evil spirits and demons. Lin Fan, destroy the heavens and earth? Slay evil and exterminate demons? Protect the 3 realms? Are you kidding me? After a long while, he snapped out of his meditation. Damn, I'm such an idiot. The skill bar showed no indication, not even a peep. He deeply suspected this was a hoax. But quickly, he put the book away, stroking his chin in thought. Could it be that I've gone too far? The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Even if the Buddha's palm could really be added to the skill list, it wasn't something he could currently master. After all, he wasn't worthy, at least not in his current state. At most, he could only practice Iron Head Kung Fu. Please continue reading. Please vote. Chapter 37. Lin Fan's mind is not working properly, and neither are the manager's minds. Bang. Bang. Cultivation is inherently a tedious and boring thing. In an open space, Lin Fan stood with his legs apart, head down, with the collected bricks laid out in front of him. Then, like a machine, he picked up a brick and started hitting his head with it. This reminded him of a line from a movie. Shaolin Kung Fu is awesome, really awesome. I have Iron Head Kung Fu, invincible Iron Head Kung Fu, combined with breathing techniques. It actually felt quite good. Perhaps in the eyes of some people who only want to cultivate peerless martial arts, Iron Head Kung Fu is so pathetic and low class. But he was willing to spend time on Iron Head Kung Fu. From shallow to deep. He would definitely go further and more steadily. He wanted to train his entire body into a great weapon, so that even if his limbs were bound, he could still use his head as a club to smash the opponent's head. Just thinking about it was very exciting. Proficiency +1. The proficiency of Iron Head Kung Fu was no longer 0, but had changed through his persistent efforts. Obviously, this path was feasible. Gradually, time passed quickly. During this time, some people passed by and heard the banging sounds. They didn't know what was happening, but when they looked in the direction of the sound, they were horrified to see Lin Fan hiding his head with a brick. This scene left them dumbfounded, as if they had seen a ghost. Everyone who saw this had only one thought: has he lost his mind? Some wanted to say something, but dared not speak, because Lin Fan was an awakened one, and if they said something that upset him, wouldn't they be needlessly offending him? Lin Fan knew that the passers-by were puzzled by his behavior, but he didn't want to explain. What do you know? Iron Head Kung Fu, you know? It's very strong, okay? He continued to focus on leveling up his skills. After an unknown amount of time, a figure hurried over from afar. Zhou Shichen was panicked, nervous, and worried. He had already heard the news. Someone had come to tell him that Lin Fan was hitting his head with a brick, looking very abnormal, and wondering if he had mental problems. Hearing this, Zhou Shichen was clearly shocked. Mental problems were very common in the apocalypse. The pressure from the surrounding environment can easily crush a person's mental bridge, even if they are unawakened. The fragility of the mind has nothing to do with whether one is unawakened. In the 10 years of the apocalypse, he had seen everything. Soon, he saw Lin Fan, and his expression changed drastically. Lin Fan, stop, Zhou Shichen shouted from afar. Just as others had said, he was indeed hitting Lin Fan's head with a brick. Good heavens, this couldn't go wrong. The Temple Bay stronghold had finally gained a strong and capable member, they couldn't let him go mad. Hearing the voice, Lin Fan stopped, his hand holding the brick. Seeing Zhou Shichen approaching from afar, he was puzzled, wondering what the other wanted. But still, with a bang, he smashed the brick on his head, stood up, and smiled. What's wrong? Lin Fan asked. Zhou Shichen walked up to Lin Fan, looking at the scattered brick fragments, swallowing hard. What are you doing? He asked in a very gentle tone. Very restrained. Thinking that he absolutely couldn't upset Lin Fan, he had to guide his mind and pull him out of his repressed mental state. Lin Fan smiled and said, nothing much, just practicing Iron Head Kung Fu. Iron Head Kung Fu? What kind of Kung Fu? Iron Head Kung Fu. Look, it's this. Lin Fan waved a book in his hand. Can I take a look? Zhou Shichen asked. Martial arts were all imagined, not real at all. In peacetime, the most popular martial arts appeared in TV dramas. What Tathagata Palm, what 9 Revolutions Undying Evil Kung Fu, those were all martial arts practiced by the protagonists and villains in TV dramas. Of course, Lin Fan handed Iron Head Kung Fu to him. Zhou Shichen flipped through it, then looked at the back. Published by Maya Aon Publishing House, priced at 5 yuan. At this moment, Zhou Shichen's expression was somewhat complicated. His eyes, looking at Lin Fan, held a little disbelief, as if to say, you're not a child anymore, you should be able to distinguish between truth and falsehood. It's obviously a lie. Lin Fan also noticed something odd about Zhou Shichen's gaze. You don't actually think this is fake, and that only a lunatic would do something like hitting myself on the head with a brick, do you? Of course, he couldn't say that out loud. Zhou Shichen quickly waved his hands. No, I didn't say that. Your behavior is perfectly normal. I practiced it when I was little, just randomly swinging a stick around in the rapeseed fields. I thought I was cultivating sword energy. Sure enough, the other man took his behavior as insanity. I know this Iron Head skill is fabricated, but I'm telling you, do you think I don't know if it's fake or not? Lin Fan said helplessly. Explaining was difficult. Others didn't have any special abilities or experience. Zhou Shichen felt Lin Fan was already deeply involved, and ordinary conversation wouldn't be enough to pull him out of it. As the manager of the stronghold, he needed to adjust Lin Fan's mental state. He didn't say anything more. Zhou Shichen picked up a brick. Lin Fan, we're both awakened. Awakened beings are very powerful, and their physical abilities are also greatly enhanced. In the past, a brick could make someone's head bleed profusely, but look, bang, without a word, Zhou Shichen slammed the brick onto his head, then brushed off the hair-covered fragments. You see, I haven't practiced Iron Head Kung Fu, yet I can still shatter a brick. The reason is that I'm an awakened, my physical abilities are too high, I can ignore these things. He only hoped to use his own method to successfully pull Lin Fan back. In the distance, some people inside the inner wall secretly followed Zhou Shichen, wanting to see what was going on. But when they saw the administrator smashing his own head with a brick, they stared at each other, mouths agape. Only one thought crossed their minds, the administrator's mind was probably not working properly. He just hid it very well, not showing it. This situation terrified them. Now, Lin Fan, observing Zhou Shichen's actions, chuckled and said, it's not like that. My mastery of Iron Head Kung Fu is still very shallow. Using a brick is just one method in the process. What I aspire to is, at its peak, to be able to take a blow with my head, unharmed, but the blade shattered. Understand, if the ultimate effect of Iron Head Kung Fu is simply to be unharmed by a brick, then what's the point of practicing it? Zhou Shichen, taking a blow with my head? Could a sane person ask such a question? At that moment, Zhou Shichen's heart was bleeding. Lin Fan said, alright, it's alright. I'll continue practicing. Iron Head Kung Fu is just my entry-level martial art. I have other martial arts techniques. Look, he then pulled a secret manual from his robes, fanning it out with his fingers. Zhou Shichen stared, dumbfounded. Lin Fan continued, the Tathagata palm, iron shirt, Vajra palm, dragon claw hand, there are so many. I think they're worth studying. It's getting late, and there are still many things to do at the barrier. Go ahead and get busy, don't worry about things here, I know what I'm doing, Zhou Shichen. Chapter 38. You're right, but we don't like order. Watching Zhou Shichen's departing figure, Lin Fan shook his head. You don't understand now. When I succeed in figuring it out, you'll realize how wrong you were to doubt me. Right now, he needed to focus on his training, striving to max out his proficiency. Without much thought, he continued squatting there, head down, smashing a brick against his head. This wasn't something you could just do randomly. It required a special breathing technique of Iron Head Kung Fu, adjusting his breathing to form a flow of energy within his body, circulating it to his head, creating a large net of energy that covered it. That's the gist of it. Whether it was exactly like that, he didn't know. Anyway, as his proficiency increased, he could clearly feel a strange energy flowing within his body. Where did this energy come from, and how did it circulate within him? These were questions that puzzled him. However, he never overthought them. At this stage, he was a novice in martial arts, and novices didn't have the right to think too much, they just needed to proceed step by step. In the distance, Zhou Shichen, who had left, was nearly driven mad with worry. Talking with Lin Fan, Zhou Shichen found that while Lin Fan's problem wasn't too serious, the things he said were quite problematic. Why did this happen? Is it because he's been living alone for so long, leading to an excess of testosterone that can't be released, ultimately causing this problem? Zhou Shichen pondered. To be honest, he was a very proper person, but he also knew that bodily needs need to be released. Otherwise, suppressed desires can lead to illness, such as erectile dysfunction, prostate problems, negative mental health issues, and an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. Should I introduce him to a girlfriend? Evening. Lin Fan looked at his Iron Head Kung Fu proficiency level, which had reached 18. Reaching a proficiency level of 10 increased his constitution by 1 point, which he found quite unbelievable. Hitting his head with a brick could actually improve his constitution. Logically, this behavior was very simple and shouldn't offer much benefit, but judging from the current situation, it was very likely related to breathing techniques. Thinking of continuing to increase his proficiency, he reached for the brick but found it empty. Forget it, I'll go back and rest. Lin Fan got up, patted his butt, and left. He felt he might be walking a path no one had ever walked before, although his understanding of this was extremely shallow, even negligible. But he could clearly feel a strange energy flowing within his body. Ki? Perhaps. Nowadays, humans fight against alien beasts by consuming their flesh and blood crystals, eventually becoming hunters or reaching a certain level of spiritual power to become awakened beings, gaining different magical powers. But all of this is achieved through the flesh and blood crystals of alien beasts. Could humans cultivate in a regular, systematic way, tapping into the potential within the human body and transforming it into greater power? He had thought about these things. But thinking was one thing, without any clues. He could cultivate Iron Head Kung Fu thanks to an external cheat. Perhaps when he reached a higher level of cultivation, he might discover its secrets. Night. In a hidden pit not far from the Temple Bay Fortress. Brother Han, do you mean we shouldn't show up together? A survivor asked. Han Ping said in a deep voice. Yes, the news of Baofeng Fortress being breached by the alien beasts must have reached Miaoan. You all know my situation. If I show up, Zhou Shichen at Miaoan Fortress will definitely not let us in. So you have to go in, find out the situation inside, see which awakened ones can cause us trouble, and at the same time gain Zhou Shichen's trust. Once we have his trust, everything else will be easier. Brother Han, we can hide you in the car. As long as we can fool them, once we get inside the fortress, we can all launch a strong attack and definitely take down Miaoan Fortress. Idiot, are you stupid? How much sacrifice do you expect us to make to take down Miaoan Fortress? Listen to me, do it this way, go in separately in batches. If anyone asks, just say that I, Han Ping, am dead. As long as I'm not there, once you get to Miaoan Fortress, you will definitely be recruited by Zhou Shichen and added to his inner circle. Han Ping knew the value of awakened ones. For any stronghold, awakened ones are the most important members. As for hunters, they are equally important, but their status is certainly not as high as that of awakened ones. Hearing this, someone nodded and said, Brother Han is right. This is the safest method. I also think it's feasible. First, we need to gain their trust. Then we can take advantage of the situation, coordinate from the inside and outside, and successfully take over Miaoan stronghold. Then it will be our territory, facing the group's enlightened minds. Han Ping nodded with satisfaction. At the same time, he sneered inwardly. With Han Ping watching them, Miaoan stronghold would inevitably be under his control. Morning. Mayaoan's stronghold. When a group of people appeared in a car below the outer wall, the survivor operating the elevator, seeing that they were all strangers who had escaped from Baofeng's stronghold, was at a loss for what to do. He hurriedly sent someone to notify the administrator. When Zhou Shichen learned of this, his expression was also quite serious. He then rushed over with his men. Soon, the two sides met. "You all came from Baofeng Fortress?" Zhou Shichen asked. The group of people standing before him looked exhausted, their faces covered in dust, some with bandaged wounds. "Brother Zhou, my name is Yan Su. We all escaped from Baofeng Fortress. We were constantly chased by monsters along the way. Luckily, I and the others are awakened ones, and they are hunters, which is how we escaped here. Otherwise, we would have been eaten by the monsters long ago," Yan Su said with lingering fear, his face pale as if recalling the scene. Zhou Shichen asked, "Were you the only ones who escaped?" "I don't know, but when we escaped, it was just the two of us. Your Baofeng Fortress has air raid shelters. When the monsters breached the fortress, didn't you hide inside?" Zhou Shichen wanted to know more. He was genuinely tempted when he heard they were awakened ones and hunters. If Mayaoan Fortress could recruit them and make them members of the fortress, then the fortress would be much safer. "No, our fortress collapsed due to a quality issue. The beasts rushed in so fast they didn't give us a chance to react." "What about your manager, Hong Ping?" "I don't know. When we ran, from a distance, it looked like he was surrounded by two level 3 beasts. His situation was very unclear, we didn't know if he was dead or alive." In Zhou Shichen's view, being surrounded by two level 3 beasts was likely a very bad situation. Zhou Shichen pondered, then looked at Yan Su. "So you want to join the Mayaoan Fortress now, right, Brother Zhou? We have nowhere else to go. Please take us in. Aside from anything else, we all have considerable strength and can definitely contribute to this place," Yan Su said sincerely. His expression was genuine, not fake. Zhou Shichen didn't agree immediately. Mainly, he wasn't sure what these people truly thought. But he also didn't want to let these awakened ones and hunters go, and besides, the Baofeng Fortress had indeed been breached by beasts. This wasn't a false report. "Come with me, let's have a proper talk over there, inside the inner wall." The survivors who had come to seek refuge breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed everything was going smoothly. In the conference room, besides Zhou Shichen, the other awakened individuals from the Mayaoan stronghold were also present. Zhou Shichen looked at them and said, "I didn't say much on the outer wall, but now I want to have a frank talk with you. In the 10 years since the apocalypse, our human living areas have been constantly shrinking. It's not easy to have the living environment we have now. You came to seek refuge because you want to survive, and naturally, I can't turn you away, but to be honest, I know Han Ping from your Baofeng stronghold. He's insidious, cunning, despicable, cruel, and vicious. He wouldn't be safe anywhere." Listening to Zhou Shichen's words, they blinked intently, paying close attention. They hadn't expected Brother Han's reputation to be so bad. It was truly appalling. Zhou Shichen continued, "I don't know what your true thoughts are, but I, Zhou Shichen, can guarantee that everything within the Temple Bay Fortress is orderly and stable. You are awakened ones and hunters, the fortress's safety depends on you. Therefore, I will provide you with corresponding benefits. A peaceful living environment is hard-won. I hope everyone can work together to maintain safety here, considering we are all human." The 3 awakened ones and 7 hunters who arrived in batches, reflecting on Zhou Shichen's words, felt a slight stirring within them for some reason. They felt that what he said made sense. There was nothing wrong with it. But they didn't like order, they preferred oppression. Chapter 39, etc. I have something to say. Bang! 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 Day after day, grinding through skill levels was the only thing Lin Fan could do during this time. The seemingly ordinary brick throwing actually made an unimaginable contribution to humanity. To others, this kind of unskilled brick throwing was incredibly tedious, but to Lin Fan, it was a path of exploring human potential, surely full of endless fun and anticipation. Lin Fan, at this moment, a middle-aged man rushed over. Lin Fan looked at him and recognized him as one of the survivors he had encountered in Mayaoan County, the man who had fled with a baby. "Wang Hai, what's wrong?" Lin Fan asked. Back at the stronghold, the man had been given a very good job, partly because he was an agricultural expert, and partly because Zhou Shichen seemed to be giving him good treatment out of respect for him. Wang Hai, panting, Rich Lin Fan. Something happened, don't rush, tell me slowly. In Lin Fan's view, if someone remembered him when something happened, it meant he was probably quite important within the stronghold, and his status had unknowingly risen considerably. Wang Hai said, do you know if a group of survivors from Baofeng Fortress have fled here? No. What do you mean? He had heard about the situation at Baofeng Fortress. Wang Hai said, I know the leader, his name is Yan Su. He's an awakened one, and he followed Han Ping in Baofeng Fortress. He's a very terrifying person, but now he's been left behind in the fortress. I suspect there's a secret going on. Hearing what Wang Hai said, Lin Fan thought of his earlier guesses. Miaoan Fortress was the closest to them. Anyone would want to occupy it. Did they say Han Ping is dead? I heard that Han Ping is surrounded by 2 level 3 alien beasts. His fate is unknown, but he's likely dead, Wang Hai said. During his time at Miaoan Fortress, Wang Hai felt it was a really good place and was willing to stay there forever. Therefore, when he learned that Yan Su had brought people here, he seemed somewhat panicked, afraid that the place would be destroyed. I understand. You go back first. I know what I'm doing, Lin Fan said. Okay, having said what he needed to say and done what he could, Wang Hai turned and left. Lin Fan continued practicing his Iron Head Kung Fu, his mind preoccupied with the Baofeng Fortress. Not far away, Yan Su and another awakened, Zhang Chang, appeared to be strolling, but were actually exchanging whispers. We've gained their trust for now. How's your investigation going? Yan Su asked. To perfectly capture the Temple Bay Fortress, they needed to understand the situation, such as the abilities of the awakened, the number and distribution of the hunters, etc. The investigation is almost complete, but there's a slight discrepancy. The Temple Bay Fortress doesn't just have 9 awakened, there's actually a 10th, who appeared recently, Zhang Cheng said. Yan Su frowned, somewhat annoyed. Damn it, they had more awakened than them when they had 9, and now another one had appeared, putting them under immense pressure. Hey, listen, did you hear anything strange? Yes, bang bang. The two looked at each other, both puzzled. They followed the sound. Soon, they saw the scene before them, and both were shocked at first glance. What's this guy doing? Yan Su asked. I don't know, hitting himself on the head with a brick. Is he out of his mind? Zhang Cheng's voice wasn't loud, but Lin Fan's ears were sharp. He could hear anyone talking badly about him. Lin Fan stopped what he was doing, turned his head, and saw an unfamiliar face. After glancing at them, he lowered his head again, picked up the brick, and started hitting himself on the head again. His movements were fluid, his face expressionless, as if everything around him had nothing to do with him. Yan Su and Zhang Cheng stared at each other. Seemingly silent, their eyes communicated, there was someone abnormal in this Miaoan stronghold. Yan Su and Zhang Cheng left without engaging in conversation. At that moment, as if sensing something, Zhang Cheng turned back, and in that instant, his eyes met Lin Fan's. Lin Fan's gaze sent a chill down Zhang Cheng's spine, and he quickly looked away, avoiding the topic. Night fell. Chen Jun was tense and restless. He was a survivor who had escaped from the Baofeng stronghold, and a hunter himself, but now he was facing Zhou Shichen. No one else was addressed, only him, and it was just the two of them. This atmosphere, this situation, made him uneasy. Are you settling in all right today? Zhou Shichen placed a cup of tea in front of him, showing concern. Chen Jun slightly raised his buttocks, somewhat flattered, and accepted the tea. It's a habit, quite nice. Zhou Shichen smiled and said, I sympathize with your plight, and I welcome you safely here. We are all human beings and compatriots. Life in the apocalypse has made us all feel very oppressed, but we have never given up hope, don't you agree? Yes, we have never given up, Chen Jun nodded. He didn't know what Zhou Shichen wanted to see him about in private. His heart was beating slightly faster, and he kept thinking, could it be that their purpose had been discovered? By the way, I heard you were a policeman during peacetime. Yes, not officially employed, just an auxiliary policeman, just trying to make a living. An auxiliary policeman is still a policeman. No matter what, they all contribute to maintaining social order. Chen Jun's smile wasn't entirely natural. He took a sip of tea, trying to calm himself down. Zhou Shichen continued, I've heard a little about the situation at Baofeng Stronghold. Han Ping, relying on his status as a third-tier awakened, acts like a dictator, wielding absolute power and failing to establish any rules. This has led to constant fighting among the ordinary survivors within Baofeng's stronghold, which he treats as a performance. No one dares to challenge his authority. Chen Jun nodded silently, agreeing with Zhou Shicheng's assessment. Han Ping was indeed the local tyrant of Baofeng's stronghold. Anyone who dared to disobey him would be severely punished, suffering a fate worse than death. Even Chen Jun, a hunter, dared not utter a word within Baofeng's stronghold. Zhou Shicheng slowly said, I've always wanted my Aowen fortress to be a peaceful and tranquil place, a place where people can live in peace. I've been trying my best, but sometimes, ideas are ideas, and reality is reality. The only thing I can guarantee is the stability of order and that the hard-working survivors have enough to eat. They might not be full, but at least they won't starve. I also want everyone to be well-fed and to live a good life. But looking back at history, this is the wrong approach. Unrestrained management at the top, equal distribution of food and drink without incentives, and neglect of individual strength, doing good or bad makes no difference. In the end, who will be willing to contribute? Is it about using the principle of with great power comes great responsibility to pressure those willing to contribute more? Are you right? Chen Jun looked at Zhou Shicheng. What the other man said was beyond his expectations. He didn't even understand why he was saying these things. Among the people who came with him were awakened ones, while he was just a hunter, not that important. You're right, Chen Jun replied. Zhou Shicheng stood up and walked to Chen Jun's side, saying, You're a hunter, an important member of our stronghold. The safety of the stronghold depends on you. I hope you've genuinely joined, because I truly don't want this place to be destroyed. If Han Ping weren't dead, I wouldn't feel comfortable letting you in, because as a member of the Baofeng stronghold, you know Han Ping's character. He then gently patted Chen Jun's shoulder and prepared to leave. Chen Jun, with his back to Zhou Shicheng, was struggling internally. That afternoon, he had visited the Miao stronghold. It was indeed a good place to live. Zhou Shicheng, as the manager, had never acted arbitrarily, which was the biggest difference between him and Han Ping. Finally, after a series of internal struggles, he said, Wait, I have something to say. Chapter 40 Things even dogs won't train for often end up killing you. Good morning. After yesterday's efforts, his iron head kung fu proficiency had reached 40. The brick was useless. Too weak. He needed something else to help him cultivate. He tapped his head with his fingers, the clanging sound sounding quite nice, making his head feel much harder. Moreover, as he deepened his practice of iron head kung fu, he discovered his breathing technique was flawed. His breathing method had been significantly adjusted under the influence of this external cheat. As the saying goes, unlocking human potential is discovered through continuous experimentation. If someone were to specialize in this area, it might require several generations, even dozens of generations. But this proficiency cheat was terrifying. It could actually adjust and guide him towards the correct path during the proficiency increase process. That was truly frightening. He took out the iron hammer. Yes, the iron hammer. When the brick was useless, only the iron hammer could help him. Without a word, he grabbed the hammer and smashed it against his head. His first attempt was a hard hit. It wasn't for any other reason than his trust in Iron Head Kung Fu. To outsiders, Iron Head Kung Fu might seem unimpressive, but as his proficiency improved, so did his physical constitution, and the improvement was quite rapid. 10 points of proficiency resulted in 1 point of improvement in his constitution. He believed the main reason for this improvement was the breathing technique. The initial gains from trying something new were always substantial. Clang, 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 the sound of striking echoed. After an unknown amount of time, 2 figures appeared in the distance. It was Yan Su and Zhang Cheng. When they saw Lin Fan yesterday, they didn't know he was the 10th awakened. Only after investigating did they learn that the guy they thought was crazy was actually the 10th awakened. So, they came to see for themselves. When they arrived, they were completely dumbfounded. Yesterday it was bricks hitting his head, today it was iron hammers. Brother Yan, what's wrong with him? Zhang Cheng couldn't help but ask. He had never seen such a strange awakened. What role did this guy play in the barrier? Yan Su watched Lin Fan tirelessly hammering his head, then remained silent for a moment before saying, he must have something wrong with his head. Nobody would do something like this if they didn't. Come on, let's go say hello. Soon, the 2 arrived in front of Lin Fan. Hello, Yan Su greeted him. Lin Fan, who had been hammering his head, stopped, glanced at the 2 men, stood up, and wore a seemingly sincere smile. Hello. The smile was quite nice, giving a genuine impression. But for some reason, Yan Su felt the smile seemed a little fake. We just joined the temple base stronghold. My name is Yan Su, and his is Zhang Cheng. We are both awakened. He wanted to probe Lin Fan's background. The information he had gathered already confused him. Not long after becoming an awakened? Able to bring back the corpse of a level 3 alien beast? Damn. This information was contradictory. Yan Su? Oh, so your name is Yan Su. The bad guy Wang Hai mentioned, so this is the one in front of him. Oh, I've heard of you. Welcome to the Maoan Fortress family. You wanted to see me. Lin Fan thought these two guys had been here yesterday and were here again today. Were they really that free? Even if Wang Hai hadn't said anything, he knew these two weren't good people. Especially Yan Su's face, it gave off a bad vibe. Nothing much, just wanted to ask what you're doing. Why are you hitting yourself on the head with a hammer? Yan Su asked. Lin Fan pulled out a manual from his pocket. This, Yan Su craned his neck slightly, widened his eyes, and examined it carefully, saying slowly and deliberately, Iron Head Kung Fu. Yes, Iron Head Kung Fu. I'm practicing martial arts. Lin Fan smiled. Yan Su and Zhang Cheng stared at each other. Although they didn't speak, the meaning was clear. This guy is definitely crazy. Can I take a look? Of course. He handed the manual to Yan Su, who flipped through it and then read aloud on the back, published by Maoan Publishing House, priced at 5 yuan. At this moment, both of them were stunned again. Yan Su couldn't help but laugh out loud. This is obviously a scam. 5 yuan, even a dog wouldn't learn it, huh? What did you say? Lin Fan pretended to frown. Yan Su was taken aback, thinking of what he had just said, that even a dog wouldn't learn it. Did that mean this guy was even worse than a dog? No, I didn't say anything. He hurriedly waved his hands. Lin Fan's smile faded, and his expression suddenly became serious. I heard you. You said even a dog wouldn't practice this. You mean I'm even worse than a dog? Although Yan Su really wanted to say, yes, that's what I meant, he had things to do and naturally wouldn't easily offend the other party, so he hurriedly denied it. I didn't mean that. Lin Fan waved his hands, ignoring the other party's explanation. Instead, he stood before Yan Su, who forced a smile, his meaning clear. What I said is true. I may not mean it, but what I really mean is for you to figure out. Lin Fan didn't say a word, crossed his arms, planted his feet firmly on the ground, leaned back, keeping his ankles still, his entire back flush with the ground. In that instant, time and space seemed to freeze. The situation left Yan Su and Zhang Cheng somewhat bewildered, unable to understand each other's actions. They stared at each other, their lips moving but no sound uttered, but the lip movements conveyed that Lin Fan was truly mentally unstable. Sigh. Just as Yan Su was about to speak, suddenly, something happened. Lin Fan, still flush with the ground, unleashed a tremendous burst of power, his body propelling him forward. Iron Head technique, bang! Lin Fan's forehead slammed into Yan Su's head, a lightning-fast, almost after-image-like motion, followed by a deafening roar. Yan Su, like a cannonball, was sent flying into the distance with a whoosh. Standing to the side, Zhang Cheng stared, completely dumbfounded. He glanced at Yan Su, who had been flown more than 10 meters away and lay motionless on the ground, then at Lin Fan, who still stood with his arms crossed and expressionless. For a moment, he didn't know what to do. Hey, huh? As soon as Lin Fan uttered the word hey, Zhang Cheng broke out in a cold sweat. Yan Su was a second-tier awakened, very strong, but now he was lying on the ground. Lin Fan turned his head and slowly said, even dogs don't practice Iron Head Kung Fu, which can often be fatal. Why would he laugh at me for no reason? Zhang Cheng swallowed hard, sweat beading on his forehead, and stammered, I didn't laugh at you, I was just watching. At this moment, Lin Fan, in the distance, Zhou Shicheng rushed over. Passing Yan Su, who had been sent flying, he glanced down and was shocked. Yan Su's forehead was caved in, and blood was flowing from his 7 orifices. He squatted down, checked his pulse, he wasn't dead, it was still beating. Lin Fan nodded to Zhou Shicheng, then continued hammering Yan Su's head. Zhou Shicheng was stunned. Yesterday it was a brick, today it's a hammer. What are you doing? Before Lin Fan could explain, Zhang Cheng hurriedly said, Big brother is practicing Iron Head Kung Fu. What about him? Zhou Shicheng pointed at the flat-bottomed Yan Su. Zhang Cheng said, he said Big brother's Iron Head Kung Fu is so bad even dogs don't practice it. and then he got hit by it. Lin Fan stopped his practice and said, "Old Joe, take him to get him treated. The sooner you get him, the better. Don't disturb my practice." Finally, Zhou Shichen had Yan Su carried away, but as he left, he glanced at Lin Fan, who also looked at him and silently nodded. This slight nod instantly made Zhou Shichen understand something. Lin Fan, he understood. Indeed, worthy of being someone I, Zhou Shichen, value. Please give some rewards, my darlings. Chapter 41, Tell me if I'm right or wrong. What had just happened was a trivial incident for Lin Fan. Idiot, doubting my iron head kung fu, huh? He continued hammering his head. Clang, clang, clang. Only that sound gave him endless motivation, everything else was irrelevant. Night. Zhang Cheng and another awakened, Xiao Hao, were inside. Zhang Cheng, what happened? How did Yan Su suddenly become like this? Xiao Hao was completely dumbfounded upon learning the situation. This guy had only been at Miaoan Fortress for 2 days, and he was already like this? It made one wonder if the purpose had been discovered, leading to this deliberate act. Sigh, Zhang Cheng sighed, shaking his head in frustration. It's all his fault for being an idiot. An idiot. Xiao Hao was taken aback and hurriedly asked, did he expose himself? Zhang Cheng said, it's not that he exposed himself, it's that he's a smart aleck. He had to provoke people. You know the awakened one Lin Fan, right? He was smashing his head with a hammer in an open space, saying he was practicing Iron Head Kung Fu. He had to say that even dogs wouldn't practice Iron Head Kung Fu. Isn't that infuriating? Xiao Hao nodded in agreement. It was indeed a bit too much. If you can't speak properly, then don't speak at all. If this were in our old stronghold, we would have already started fighting, Zhang Cheng said. We almost did. His head is really made of iron. With a bang, he directly smashed Yan Su away. I saw it with my own eyes. His forehead was dented. I don't know if he's dead or not, but he was seriously injured. Do you think we really need to cooperate with Han Ping and launch an inside-outside attack, You want to betray Brother Han? Xiao Hao's face turned cold, and he looked at Zhang Cheng with a cold gaze. Zhang Cheng said, I was just saying, you'd better just be saying it. We're determined to take Miaoan Fortress. Xiao Hao's tone wasn't friendly. He didn't like the current so-called order, he preferred the order of Baofeng Fortress, the law of the jungle, where the strong preyed on the weak, and people did whatever they wanted, trampling on the dignity of ordinary survivors. This gave him a strange, exhilarating feeling. Zhang Cheng nodded, then said nothing more. He had his own thoughts. If he were truly stupid, he wouldn't have survived this long in the apocalypse. He was thinking about what benefits Han Ping would gain if he successfully captured Miaoan Fortress. Thinking about it carefully, it seemed the same as before. But what if Han Ping didn't capture Miaoan? The benefits Zhou Shichen offered were very tempting. Awakened beings could receive supplies unconditionally, anything available within the fortress could be obtained. In his opinion, this was really good. Thinking back to the days at Baofeng Fortress, Han Ping always got to enjoy the good stuff first, and then it was distributed according to strength. Although he was an awakened, he was at the bottom of the group of awakened, and by the time it was his turn, there wasn't much left. The more he thought about it, the more he felt the urge to betray him. The next day, Lin Fan, who was planning to grind for proficiency, was called away by Zhou Shichen. Old Joe, what's up? I need to go practice. Lin Fan's mastery of Iron Head Kung Fu was deepening. After knocking Yan Su away with his head, he valued this seemingly ordinary martial art even more. Zhou Shichen didn't say much and led Lin Fan into the medical room. There, on the bed, lay a person. Upon closer inspection, it was Yan Su. Is he dead or alive? Lin Fan asked. Anyway, even if he was dead, it had nothing to do with him. He hadn't attacked first, the other party had provoked him, insisting that even dogs didn't practice Iron Head Kung Fu. No one could tolerate that, right? Still alive, but can't wake up. He seems to be in a vegetative state, Zhou Shichen said. That's useless. In the apocalypse, becoming a vegetable is practically the same as being useless. Lin Fan, you noticed a long time ago, didn't you? Zhou Shichen said softly. Lin Fan stared blankly at Zhou Shichen, then, after a moment's thought, instantly understood what he meant. He then said very seriously, yes, I did notice. This guy isn't a good person, sneaky, sleazy, his face alone tells you he's not a good guy. If he were a good guy, would he look so sleazy? Zhou Shichen was very pleased. To survive in the apocalypse, you not only need strength but also a smart brain. Clearly, Lin Fan possessed both, making him the most scarce talent in the apocalypse. Therefore, he truly valued Lin Fan. Zhou Shichen said, "That's right. I've already turned one of them against us and learned their true purpose for coming here. Han Ping isn't dead, he's still alive. The plan is to coordinate an attack from within and without to seize our Miaoan fortress. I didn't tell anyone because I wanted to see how we could slowly dismantle it without anyone noticing. But I didn't expect you to discover it so quickly, and even plan ahead." "Huh?" Lin Fan blinked. "Plan? What kind of plan could I possibly set up?" Zhou Shichen chuckled, patting Lin Fan's shoulder lightly. "You're still pretending with me. Didn't you already suspect a long time ago that those awakened ones and hunters from Baofang's stronghold would come and take over our stronghold?" Lin Fan nodded. "Yet, when I met the survivors who had fled, I felt that such a day might come. See? I told you so." Zhou Shichen gave him a knowing look. "Don't pretend with me, I saw right through you. So you started practicing that iron head kung fu you mentioned beforehand. Your actions will easily arouse suspicion. The people in our stronghold certainly won't say anything, but those awakened ones who have joined us will definitely come forward to question us, and might even make sarcastic remarks. So you seize this opportunity, use their sarcastic remarks as an excuse, and take one down without any flaws. See, am I right?" Hearing what old Zhou said, Lin Fan was a little confused. Seeing that Lin Fan didn't speak but instead showed a shocked expression, Zhou Shichen knew that what he said was indeed correct. That expression was the surprise that his actions had been deduced. He understood this very well. "Lin Fan, I'm not bragging. Don't let my plain appearance fool you. I actually dreamed of becoming a mystery novelist when I was a kid. But whatever, just answer me, am I right? I saw right through you." Lin Fan took a deep breath, then sighed. "Okay, I didn't expect you to see through me. I'll stop pretending and lay my cards on the table." "You're right." Receiving a confirmed answer, Zhou Shichen's lips curled into a smug smile. His expression towards Lin Fan conveyed a sense of mutual understanding. "You understand me, and I understand you. That's what being on the same wavelength should be like. So what do we do now?" Lin Fan asked, pointing at Yan Su. Zhou Shichen replied. "He's in a vegetative state now, no threat whatsoever. But we can't do anything to him for now. I think there will be a second wave of awakened ones and hunters from the Baofang barrier." "Oh, then I'll go cultivate," Lin Fan said. Zhou Shichen said, "Go on, our battle isn't over yet. Your disguise is still useful, but it'll strain your head. Remember, don't strain yourself, you might accidentally hurt your head." Lin Fan. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42. Are you putting on an act here? Lin Fan, having left Zhou Shichen's side, gleamed with a sharp intelligence in his eyes. "My excellence is impossible to hide," he thought, feeling proud of his own cleverness. He encountered Lu Shan and his sister on the way. "Hello, Brother Lu Shan," Lin Fan greeted them. Lu Shan was his savior. If it weren't for these siblings bringing him back after his transmigration, things would have been dire. Lu Shan smiled and said, "Don't call me Brother Lu Shan, just call me Old Lu." Lin Fan was now an awakened one, holding a much higher position in the Temple Bay stronghold than they did. It wouldn't be appropriate for them to call him Brother Lu Shan. Don't be so polite. "Oh, where are you headed?" Lin Fan asked. Lu Ying said, "My brother and I are going out to hunt exotic beasts." Lu Shan said, "The improvement from exotic beast meat is too weak. We want to try our luck outside and see if we can hunt some level 2 exotic beasts and get blood crystals." She's close to becoming a level 3 hunter. Lin Fan knew that the siblings had always supported each other. "Brother Lu Shan, it's best if you don't go out during this time," Lin Fan said. Lu Shan looked puzzled, wondering why Lin Fan said that. Then Lin Fan took them to a corner and explained the recent situation. When he learned that Han Ping of Baofeng Fortress was not dead and could come to occupy the place at any time, he immediately understood. He felt that Lin Fan was right. Given the current situation, they really couldn't go out. The main reason Lin Fan told him this was that he could see that Lu Shan was reliable. Most importantly, Han Ping was definitely hiding somewhere around the fortress. If they were unlucky and the two sides met, the situation would be terrible. Understood, Lu Shan nodded, then left with his sister. Building relationships isn't something that can be done overnight. It definitely takes time. With continued contact, their relationship would grow stronger. Then, Lin Fan would have his own team and trustworthy partners. Returning to the open space, he continued hammering his head. While he was hammering, a figure watched from afar. It was Xiao Hao. Seeing Lin Fan's behavior, Xiao Hao was slightly startled. After all, he hadn't seen such bizarre behavior since the apocalypse began. This guy is fucking crazy. Yansu is just asking for trouble, Xiao Hao observed for a moment, then quietly left. Even Yansu was dazed from the blow to the head and lay there, still unconscious. Alice, a bad start. Their number of awakened was already small, and now they lost another one. If Brother Han knew, he'd be furious. Inside the fortress, Lin Fan paid no attention to his surroundings, focusing solely on improving his iron head technique. With his breathing technique corrected by the external cheat, he increasingly felt that unlocking human potential wasn't just a dream, he truly had a growing sense of mystery. However, it was still very weak. The next day, a new batch of survivors arrived at the Temple Bay Fortress. Zhou Shichen, having heard the news, arrived at the outer wall early, and Lin Fan, abandoning his cultivation, also came, wanting to see what Han Ping was up to. Lin Fan counted the number of survivors, 1 awakened one and 6 hunters. Just as he was wondering what tricks these guys would use to deceive Zhou Shichen this time, an unexpected situation occurred. The leading awakened one suddenly knelt on the ground. Tears streaming down his face, his expression excited and relieved as he shouted, "Finally escaped! Finally escaped!" Even Zhou Shichen was somewhat bewildered by this action. What were they up to now? However, Zhou Shichen pretended not to know anything and helped the other man up. "What? You escaped, Brother Zhou? We know you are the manager here. Han Ping asked us to pretend to defect to you and then cooperate with him to forcibly take over this place. But we have heard about your character, so we pretended to agree. In fact, we wanted to tell you that we really don't want to be controlled by Han Ping," Su Cheng said excitedly. "Ah," Zhou Shichen feigned shock. "Han Ping isn't dead? Those people who came earlier said he was surrounded by 2 level 3 alien beasts, yet he managed to escape," Su Cheng said. "The situation was too chaotic at the time. We also thought Han Ping was surely dead, but who could have imagined that beast Han Ping, in order to survive, would throw his companions into the alien beasts' mouths to attract their attention, thus leading us into the air raid shelter. Only after the alien beasts dispersed did he lead us out, and then he tried to take over this place." Zhou Shichen frowned slightly, then slowly said, "If he's not dead, he's not dead. But we're so grateful that you managed to escape his clutches and come to inform us. If you hadn't told us, the consequences would have been unimaginable." Lin Fan watched the performance of both sides very carefully. Life is full of lessons. He thought this performance was excellent. Meanwhile, he pondered why Su Cheng had said that. Upon closer examination, he realized Han Ping seemed genuinely cunning, employing a double strategy. The first group was ambiguous, unsure if Han Ping was dead, while the second group directly stated he wasn't. And they directly revealed Han Ping's purpose. Was this to reassure the first group? Su Cheng said, "I'm an awakened one, and I'm doing alright living in Baofeng Fortress. They're hunters, which sounds like they'd have a good life, but Han Ping doesn't take us seriously at all, abandoning and framing us at will. Brother Zhou, can you take us in? We don't have any other skills, but we're willing to work hard to protect this place." Zhou Shichen patted the other's shoulder lightly. "Of course, Miaowen Fortress welcomes any sincere survivor." At this moment, a surprised voice rang out. "Su Cheng, you're not dead." Xiao Hao ran over, immediately showing surprise and delight upon seeing Su Cheng, rushing to his side and excitedly embracing him. "Xiao Hao, I thought you were dead. When did you get here?" Su Cheng asked in surprise. Both sides were quite good at acting. Xiao Hao said, "It's been a few days. When the beasts surrounded us, I rushed out with the others. I didn't expect you to be here too. By the way, what were you guys talking about just now?" Su Cheng said, "Han Ping isn't dead. He wanted us to pretend to surrender, but we know Han Ping's character, so I explained the situation to Brother Zhou." "What? Han Ping isn't dead? He was surrounded by 2 beasts and still managed to escape." "Yeah, Su Cheng, you can't do anything foolish. Brother Zhou is righteous and friendly, and he manages this place very well. To be honest, This is the environment we humans should live in. If Han Ping takes over this place, the consequences will be unimaginable. I know, I understand. Then where is Han Ping now? He's hiding in a pit not far from here, waiting for us to infiltrate here and coordinate with him from the inside. That won't do. Han Ping must be eliminated, otherwise he'll always be a major threat here. Su Cheng and Xiao Hao echoed each other. Zhou Shichen, standing to the side, smiled amicably, as if to say, I'm just listening to your boasting. If I believe even one word from you, I jump off this wall right now. A moment later, Zhou Shichen stepped forward and said, let's not talk about that now. He's hiding outside and can't come for the time being. Let me give you a welcome dinner first, then you can rest well. We'll figure out how to eliminate him later. Su Cheng and Xiao Hao didn't say much, just nodded silently, agreeing with Zhou Shichen's statement. No rush, no rush. Just revealing some information is enough. Thank you too. Wind sweeps the sea waves of this life. Demons have no intentions but are more intentional. 9 heavens reach for the stars. Book friend 202209042358074229. Yijian Qingzin. Thank you. Line 20,210,925. Drifting Sparks, and other readers for their donations. Thank you. Chapter 43 Su Cheng. Stop here, don't be impulsive. Lin Fan didn't like these schemes. They were giving him a headache. After Zhou Shichen led them to the inner wall, he left to continue practicing his Iron Head technique. His first martial art related to martial arts was nearing completion, something Lin Fan found very exciting. Inner wall. Medical room. Ah, what happened to Yan Su? Su Cheng exclaimed upon seeing Yan Su lying on the bed, breathing steadily but remaining unconscious. He rushed to the bedside, grabbed Yan Su's arm, and looked up, his eyes slightly red. How could my brother Yan become like this? He had to find out. He was fine when they arrived, and now he was unconscious here. Even a dog would turn its head to look. Who knew what had happened? He couldn't let anyone say that the first group had betrayed them, and Yan Su refused to betray them, ultimately being beaten like this. If that were the case, continuing to pretend would make him a laughingstock. Zhou Shichen said apologetically, this is actually a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Brother Zhou, what kind of misunderstanding hurt my brother Yan like this? Su Cheng, don't have many friends, but brother Yan once saved my life. He's my savior, and I can't just ignore him. Su Cheng deliberately portrayed himself as grateful and repaying kindness. This persona wouldn't be off-putting. On the contrary, it would make people think he was loyal and righteous, and that it was normal for him to be angry that his savior had turned out this way. Zhou Shichen hesitated, glancing at Zhang Cheng. Su Cheng naturally noticed this change in expression. Zhang Cheng, you tell me, Su Cheng asked. Zhang Cheng said helplessly, it's like this. He rambled on and on, explaining the situation clearly. Su Cheng understood. Yan Su said that even dogs didn't practice Iron Head Kung Fu, and he felt this was a bad thing. This guy had just joined another faction and was already provoking the original members. Wasn't that just plain stupid? Impulsiveness is the devil. He just looked down on Yan Su, following Han Ping. He'd lost his mind. Zhou Shichen said, that's how it is. I'm very sorry. I didn't know at the time and couldn't stop it. If I had been there, this wouldn't have happened. Su Cheng wanted to find out Lin Fan's background. Zhang Cheng had explained it in detail. The other party had headbutted Yan Su, which was a sneak attack. Therefore, he couldn't figure out Lin Fan's strength. Besides, he had already established his persona, righteous and grateful. I understand. Brother Yan's behavior was indeed wrong, but no matter what, Brother Yan saved my life. I can't ignore it. Please, Brother Zhou, take me to find Lin Fan. I want to talk to him, Su Cheng said in a deep voice. Zhou Shichen hurriedly said, Su Cheng, don't get agitated. From now on, we're all on the same side. This is truly a misunderstanding. Please don't let it escalate into a conflict. Xiao Hao feigned concern, playing along with Su Cheng's persona, saying, Brother Su, I know you respect Brother Yan and are grateful for his life-saving grace, but this matter is truly a misunderstanding. Just as Brother Zhou said, Su Cheng waved his hand dismissively, his expression serious. I know it's a misunderstanding, but I want to see him. Don't worry, I won't act impulsively. Sigh. Zhou Shichen sighed, feigning compromise. Alright, then I'll take you to see him, with Chen Jun rejoining the righteous path. Zhou Shichen had long known Han Ping and his group's tactics. Therefore, when Su Cheng and his group arrived, he had been thinking about how to gradually dismantle them. Look, this opportunity has come knocking on his door. He didn't even need to think of a way to achieve it. At this moment, Lin Fan was completely immersed in practicing Iron Head Kung Fu. I can feel a faint, rhythmic flow of ki within my body. The hammer hitting his head was a minor issue. The key was that, combined with the breathing techniques, he could genuinely feel it. He recalled a short video explaining ki that he'd seen in traditional Chinese medicine. Ki is energy, the thing that moves you. Where ki flows, blood flows, meaning ki moves and blood moves, acting as a driving force, aiding in circulation. Ordinary people cannot control ki, and therefore cannot control this energy. But now, the breathing techniques within this Iron Head Kung Fu gave him a faint sense of control over ki, allowing it to travel to his head, forming an energy that made his head indestructible, as hard as iron, impervious to blades. This was his personal understanding. As for the specifics, he could only say he was a beginner, not even having entered the realm of ki, merely hovering on the edge, groping his way forward. Without external assistance, he felt he would never be able to discover anything about ki on his own. Footsteps approached from afar. Led by Zhou Shichen, Su Cheng saw Lin Fan practicing Iron Head Kung Fu. Upon first glance, Su Cheng was shocked to see the guy not far away actually hitting his head repeatedly with a hammer. Good heavens, he was actually using a hammer to hit his head. Zhou Shichen nodded with satisfaction. He felt that only Lin Fan understood him, and only he understood Lin Fan. To put on a convincing act without any flaws was truly difficult. Anyone else would slack off when no one was around, pretending to practice when others were present, seemingly without problem, but easily discovered. Therefore, Lin Fan's behavior of pretending to practice Iron Head Kung Fu regardless of whether anyone was around, actively attracting their attention and mockery, truly made him want to cry. So dedicated. This was a trustworthy partner. Sure enough, Su Cheng was stunned. Xia Hao whispered in Su Cheng's ear, I heard he's not very bright, don't be too careless. Su Cheng didn't speak, just nodded. Lin Fan, Zhou Shichen greeted him with a smile, training, huh? How's your Iron Head Kung Fu training going? Not bad, kind of interesting, my head doesn't hurt anymore, Lin Fan replied. It sounded like a strange exchange. Su Cheng carefully examined Lin Fan. He'd already seen him on the outer wall earlier, unremarkable, and hadn't paid him any attention. But who would have thought this guy was the one who injured Yan Su like this? So you're the one who injured Yan Su? Su Cheng asked. Lin Fan looked at him, it was me. What do you want? Oh, we're all on the same side, let's not cause any conflict, Zhou Shichen said, extending his hand, his words clearly implying, as the manager here, I certainly don't want any conflict between you. Of course, this was just polite talk. He knew Lin Fan would definitely make a perfect impression. Brother Zhou, don't worry, let me speak first, Su Cheng said, looking at Lin Fan, Yan Su is my savior. You beat him into vegetable, how are you going to explain this? I'm very sorry. Lin Fan said helplessly. Su Cheng took off his coat and threw it on the ground. Sorry, if it were useful, I wouldn't have come to you. I just joined here with my brothers, and Brother Zhou persuaded me, so I'll give him face. But I can't let it go like this, since you hurt my savior. How about this, you and I will fight for 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, and then all our differences will be wiped clean. Lin Fan waved his hand and said, no, I won't fight. Now that you've joined the stronghold, you're on our side. Fists and kicks have no eyes, what if someone gets hurt? No way, no way. Zhou Shichen, who was standing to the side, didn't say a word, but he was convinced by Lin Fan's words. Not bad, really not bad. He actively refused the challenge. He let Su Cheng entangle him, and then take him down during the fight. Even if something went wrong, it would be because the other party provoked him, and no one would suspect anything. Fists and kicks have no eyes, if I get hurt, it's my own fault. Su Cheng, will never blame anyone, Su Cheng said. Among the onlookers, Zhang Cheng blinked, somewhat worried, while Xia Hao, on the other hand, was quite expectant. Su Cheng was a second-tier awakened, his awakened ability being brute force. This ability was terrifying, possessing immense strength. Other awakened individuals would find it difficult to resist once they got close. Lin Fan sighed, if I don't agree, it means this matter can't be resolved, right? Yes, that's right, alright then, I accept your challenge, but let's stop here. After practicing Iron Head Kung Fu, I'm having some difficulty controlling this power. If something goes wrong, don't blame me, I won't blame you. Lin Fan looked at the people around him. You all heard that. If something happens, don't blame me. Come on, stop talking nonsense. 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, Su Chang spoke, already having planned his next move. That was to get close to his opponent, and then, at close range, use brute force to break his hands. Even if he was an awakened, he would be crippled for a period of time. Zhou Shichen said, Su Chang, stop while you're ahead, don't be impulsive. Su Chang replied, don't worry, Brother Zhou, I know what I'm doing. Lin Fan, be careful, Zhou Shichen said with concern, giving the impression that Lin Fan was weak and had only managed to hurt Yan Su through a sneak attack. If they fought fair and square, he definitely wouldn't be a match for Yan Su. This underlying feeling was already present. Su Chang could sense Zhou Shichen's tension and worry. He sneered inwardly. Yes, I will, Lin Fan nodded, also feigning some nervousness. Chapter 44 This is called feigning weakness to intimidate the enemy. Su Chang walked up to Lin Fan, standing very close, about a meter apart, a distance he could easily reach out and grasp, completely under Su Chang's control. Xiaohao's lips curled slightly. It was a sure thing. Zhang Chang, on the other hand, frowned, feeling uneasy. Ever since Yan Su was hit and rendered a vegetable, his heart had been pounding, unable to calm down. My awakened ability is fire. Be careful later, don't get burned, Lin Fan kindly reminded him. The group of hunters who came with Su Chang looked at Lin Fan with astonishment. Was this guy out of his mind? Concealing one's abilities at the first meeting, the first battle, often catches the opponent off guard, but to say it so bluntly now was practically telling them what his next move was. Don't tell me your abilities. A fight is a fight. I said 5 minutes, and it's 5 minutes. After this battle, all our grudges will be wiped clean. The fight begins. Su Chang had barely finished speaking when he instantly attacked, grabbing directly at Lin Fan's arm. Faced with such a swift strike, Lin Fan feigned panic, trying to create distance. Seeing this, Su Chang sneered repeatedly. Trying to run away before the attack even began showed a lack of confidence in the opponent, further increasing Su Chang's certainty of crippling Lin Fan's snap. Su Chang's 5 fingers formed a claw, like an eagle's claw, fiercely gripping Lin Fan's arm and pulling him back sharply. His other hand also firmly grasped Lin Fan's arm. Lin Fan struggled, only to discover that the other's strength was beyond his imagination, leaving him shocked. How can you be so strong? My ability is brute force. Among awakened beings of the same level, my strength is the strongest. No one can contend with me. Now that I've captured you, trying to break free is impossible. Su Chang was extremely arrogant, brimming with absolute confidence in his abilities. Zhou Shichen's expression changed slightly upon hearing Su Chang's words. He truly didn't know what Su Chang's awakened ability was, but now that he heard it was brute force, he had to take it seriously. Awakened beings possessed all sorts of abilities. Awakened brute force was particularly powerful, as there's a saying, one force can overcome all techniques. Xiaohao's eyes lit up with joy as he saw Su Chang had captured Lin Fan. Good, this was excellent. He had secured the first step, and the rest was predictable. Su Chang's strength was immense, he could break even steel, let alone the fragile bones of the human body. Su Chang tightened his grip, beginning to exert real force. He intended to crush Lin Fan's arm bones with brute force. Lin Fan's face was flushed, sweat beading on his forehead. Let go of me, or I'll engulf you in flames. I don't want to hurt you, Lin Fan shouted. Su Chang said, in battle, you must fight freely, no need to hold back. He knew that if Lin Fan used his ability to engulf himself in flames, it would definitely cause him trouble, but as soon as the flames appeared, he would instantly unleash his full power. At that point, Zhou Shichen would have nothing to say. Since Lin Fan had gone all out first, he was only defending himself, but he hadn't expected to use too much force, resulting in the crippling of Lin Fan's arms. Lin Fan's face grew even redder, and the pain was faintly visible. Zhou Shichen was startled and wanted to step forward to stop him. He noticed Lin Fan's expression wasn't joking. And thinking of Su Chang's abilities, he couldn't help but feel tense. No matter what, he couldn't let this terrible thing happen. But just as he was about to step forward, Xiaohao noticed and stopped Zhou Shichen. Brother Zhou, 5 minutes is 5 minutes. Su Chang won't do anything reckless, trust me. Xiaohao had to stop him. This was the best opportunity. Once Su Chang crushed Lin Fan's arm, he only needed to feign shock and disbelief and say, "I didn't expect this either. As long as I take responsibility, nothing will happen." This, Zhou Shicheng's face was grave, and he felt a surge of tension. Stay calm, he had to stay calm. "No, you fled from Baofang's stronghold, but once you join my out stronghold, you'll be one of us. When I'm encased in flames, I can indeed force you back, but it will also hurt you." "I can't do that." Lin Fan's words caused a slight tremor in the hearts of the surrounding survivors. Especially Zhang Cheng, who was already wavering between betrayal and loyalty, swayed even more fiercely. The people in Maya Out stronghold were truly good. He had observed them. In the stronghold controlled by Han Ping, he really needed to be extremely careful, but here, he could lie freely without worrying about so many things. At this moment, Su Chang's strength increased. It was as if one could hear bones cracking. The sound was so real that anyone who heard it could confirm that Su Chang was serious, and the force was extraordinary. "Ah!" Lin Fan shouted, tilting his head back and slamming it down towards Su Chang's head. With a bang, the air surged around Lin Fan's head, and his iron-hard skull seemed to be swept by a wave of air, exploding completely the moment it touched Su Chang's head. A deafening boom. Everyone around was dumbfounded. Su Chang was sent flying like a cannonball, bouncing several times as he hit the ground. At this moment, everyone was stunned. Zhang Cheng stared, his mouth agape. It was a scene he had witnessed before, so familiar. Xiaohao's eyes widened. This wasn't what he had expected. Lin Fan's arms should have been broken, not Su Chang flying through the air. "Ouch, that hurts." Lin Fan rubbed his shoulders. "I feel like my arms are going to be crushed." Zhou Shichen was dumbfounded. He had genuinely thought Lin Fan was in trouble at first, but seeing the current situation, oh crap, that pained expression he showed earlier was all an act. At that moment, Zhou Shichen seemed to have completely understood. Regardless of whether Lin Fan could see it or not, he nodded directly at Lin Fan, as if to say, "Actually, I was faking it too." "Oh, he seems to be dying," Zhang Cheng exclaimed. Everyone rushed to Su Chang's side, and seeing his condition, they couldn't help but gasp. The injury to his forehead was severe, split open, and it seemed that the skull could be seen. This was even more serious than Yan Su's injury. Lin Fan blamed himself. "How could this happen?" "Really, I really didn't expect this to happen," Zhou Shichen said. "Now is not the time to talk about this. Quickly get him to the medical room, maybe it's not too late." Immediately afterwards, everyone started to busy themselves, carrying Su Chang and running. Xiaohao was especially panicked. "Damn it, don't let two people end up lying on the floor without us doing anything, waiting for them to leave." Zhou Shichen whispered. "Lin Fan, did you see what I did just now?" "What did you do?" Lin Fan asked. "It's when you looked like you were in pain, making them think you were really weak, so I wanted to step in and separate you. That's called feigning weakness, hiding your true strength, making them think you're weak and lower their guard, so you can deliver a fatal blow. Without my cooperation, it wouldn't have been that simple," Zhou Shichen said. "Old Zhou, you're really good." "Of course, I haven't been eating for nothing all these years." Lin Fan nodded. Faces mutual, no need to expose him. He had just noticed. Old Zhou was genuinely panicked. After all, he had acted too realistically, and the other man couldn't see through him. Chapter 45. I had no choice back then, now I want to be a good person. In the simple ward, the basic medical equipment beeped. Su Chang became Yan Su's fellow patient, lying motionless on the bed, only his pulsating heartbeat proving they were still alive. "Unconscious, when they wake up is up to fate," said one of the few doctors in the stronghold. He then turned and left the ward. "I'm sorry, I couldn't control myself," Lin Fan said. Zhou Shichen patted him on the shoulder, comforting him. "It's not your fault. You explained it multiple times beforehand, and besides, injuries in battle are unavoidable." He then walked to Xiaohao's side and continued, "Don't worry, the doctors in the stronghold were all former directors of top-tier hospitals, their medical skills are superb, they can definitely help them recover." Faced with this situation, what could Xiaohao say? He could only nod, indicating that he understood. "I'm going to practice Iron Head Kung Fu." Lin Fan didn't want to waste time here. Iron Head Kung Fu was almost perfected. With a little more effort, he would definitely achieve it today. After saying that, he turned and left. Zhou Shichen watched Lin Fan's retreating figure, seemingly calm on the surface, but inwardly bewildered. He'd already caught 2 fish, what other fool would take the bait? He didn't say much, though. Perhaps there really were some. Soon, Zhou Shichen and the others left as well. Only Xiaohao and Zhang Cheng remained in the ward. Xiaohao's face was grim, his eyes fierce. Making sure no one was outside, he said in a low voice, "Do you think they've noticed something's wrong with us, so they're deliberately playing us, putting on an act in front of us?" To be honest, Xiaohao was starting to have doubts. What kind of situation was this? Two people lying on the bed, and in exactly the same way. He wouldn't have believed it if he hadn't seen it with his own eyes. "I don't think they've noticed anything wrong with us," Zhang Cheng decisively shook his head in denial. "You're so confident." Xiaohao frowned at Zhang Cheng, starting to suspect something was amiss, and also wanting to see what insights he could offer. If he couldn't give a convincing explanation, he would truly begin to doubt him. Zhang Cheng slowly said, "In both incidents, we were the ones who provoked them, not the other way around." "You agree, right?" Xiaohao pondered. Take Yan Ji's situation for example. If he hadn't gone over and said that even dogs don't practice iron head kung fu, would anything have happened? And Su Chang, under the guise of helping Yan Jie save face, initiated a sparring match, hoping to inflict some damage and render the opponent unable to fight. If he hadn't had that intention, nothing would have happened. Zhang Cheng spoke bluntly, and he felt there was no problem. Then he continued, especially Su Chang's behavior. "I felt it was a bit impulsive, almost like he had an ulterior motive. Fortunately, they didn't think too much about it and even showed concern, arranging for a doctor to treat him. If they really had doubts, do you think just the two of us awakened could defeat so many of them?" Xiaohao had genuinely been suspicious before, but after hearing Zhang Cheng's explanation, he realized it was true. If Yansu and Su Cheng hadn't courted disaster, these things wouldn't have happened. Sigh. He could only say they were unlucky. But what to do now? Who knows when those two will wake up? Their awakened ones were already fewer than those of Baofeng's stronghold. And now there are even fewer. Taking this place will be difficult. Looks like we need to find a way to trick some people into coming with me to find Han Ping, and then eliminate them in the process. This was something they had planned beforehand. They knew Han Ping's hiding place, so they had Maya Out's stronghold send people out with them to eliminate Han Ping. Once outside, they could coordinate with Brother Han to encircle and kill the awakened ones who went out. With Brother Han's strength, even if there were still awakened ones in the stronghold, they would be no match for him. Evening. Done. With a final improvement in proficiency, Iron Head Kung Fu was finally perfected. "My head is really as hard as iron." Lin Fan touched his head, feeling its texture, a relieved smile on his face. Especially at the moment of perfection, he could clearly feel the energy flowing within his body growing stronger. It was as if it had grown from an insignificant, ever-dissipating mist into a single thread. As he practiced his breathing technique, the energy flowed actively within his body. "This is a discovery never before made by humankind in thousands of years, and now I can feel it. Does this mean I'm on the path to forging a new one?" Lin Fan thought, increasingly convinced it was possible. However, while he could sense the presence of energy, its practical use was currently limited. The only reliable thing was that his head was incredibly hard. He checked his panel. Level 2, 14/30, Constitution. 58.69, Agility. 46.41, Spirit. 45, Ability, Flame, White Flame, Skills, Blacksmithing, Perfect, Throwing, Perfect, Basic Knife Techniques, Perfect, Iron Head Technique, Perfect. He was very satisfied. With the continuous improvement of his three-dimensional attributes and the constant perfection of his skills, he was full of confidence for the future. In this apocalyptic world, he would surely be unimpeded, and all the strange beasts would howl beneath him. As if thinking of something exciting, he couldn't help but let out a loud, clattering laugh. Night. Zhou Shichen lived inside the fortress. Because these guys were staying inside, for the fortress's safety, he didn't live in the air raid shelter, but rather inside the inner wall. At this moment, a figure moved furtively, stealthily, like a pervert stealing underwear in the middle of the night, moving close to the wall, hiding in the shadows, looking around to make sure it was safe, before quickly darting out and heading towards Zhou Shichen's residence. Zhou Shichen was currently inside, standing by the window, looking outside. This was the fortress he had painstakingly maintained. He couldn't let it become ruins in this apocalypse. Before, he had to worry about attacks from alien beasts. Now he also had to be wary of others taking over. This situation put immense pressure on him. Sigh. Thankfully, God sent me Lin Fan. Finally, someone can help me share some of the pressure, Zhou Shicheng sighed. Suddenly, he heard movement outside the door, frowning slightly. Who could it be? He walked to the door, lowering his voice. Who is it, Brother Zhou? It's me, Zhang Cheng. Can I come in? A weak voice came from outside the door. Zhou Shicheng opened the door and let him in, while keeping a wary eye on him. After all, the man was Han Ping's man, and he didn't know what the other was up to. Zhang Cheng, who had entered the house, breathed a sigh of relief. He had really thought about this for a long time before coming to Zhou Shicheng, his heart wavering and unable to make up his mind. Finally, after much deliberation, he made up his mind. Do it. Betrayal. He had to betray Han Ping. Following Han Ping would not end well, two of them were already dead. He didn't think Han Ping could succeed, and even if Han Ping succeeded, his life didn't seem to be much better. Besides, after observing for a while, he found that the rules in Maya Out Stronghold were quite good, especially for awakened ones. The benefits were clearly designed to take awakened ones seriously. He didn't have the choice before. Now he wanted to be a good person. Please continue reading. Chapter 46. This dragon claw hand is quite interesting. What exactly do you want? Zhou Shicheng kept a certain distance from Zhang Cheng. Zhang Cheng stood obediently and straight, slowly saying, I want to turn myself in. I want to be a good person. I want to change my life. I want my life to be filled with new hope. Turn yourself in. Zhou Shicheng feigned surprise and confusion. Turn yourself in what? Zhang Cheng said, we were all sent by Han Ping, and so was Su Chang. They pretended to defect, saying they knew Han Ping's hiding place, but actually they just wanted to lead you to your deaths to weaken the number of awakened individuals in Maya Out Stronghold. During this time, I deeply felt the warmth of human relationships here. I didn't want to be complicit with them. After a series of internal struggles, I abandoned the darkness and turned to the light, willing to fight against the darkness. You guys, Zhou Shicheng appeared shocked, as if he hadn't expected things to turn out this way. He realized that the people Han Ping sent were all cunning liars, one more capable than the next. Who could tell the truth from the lies? Brother Zhou, everything I said is true, Zhang Cheng said earnestly. I believe what you said is true. So, among these people, who do you think shares your thoughts? Zhou Shicheng asked. Zhang Cheng replied, hard to say. I didn't dare inquire indirectly. Shall I try to find out? No need, lest we alert them. I'm glad you've abandoned the darkness and come to the light. Here's what we'll do, just pretend nothing happened. You continue your undercover work. If you have any new information, inform me immediately, Zhou Shicheng said. Okay, I understand. Zhang Cheng nodded his head like a chick pecking at rice, obedient and adorable. After Zhang Cheng left, Zhou Shicheng went to the balcony, stroking his chin, lost in thought. He was organizing his thoughts. Zhang Cheng and Chen Zhen's defection was indeed a good thing, but until Han Ping was completely eliminated, he still harbored a sliver of doubt about the two who had defected, and wouldn't completely trust them. Yamsu and Su Cheng were lying flat, posing no threat. Only Xiahao remained, and needless to say, a single awakened couldn't cause much trouble. The only crucial thing was to kill Han Ping. Early morning. These were all things mentioned in the book. He didn't know if they were true or false. He just needed to follow the instructions in the book. Whether he succeeded depended on how powerful the cheat code was. If it wasn't powerful enough, he was powerless to help. After all, he knew his own limitations. He couldn't succeed just by wanting to. Someone had to set a good example. Soon, he arrived at the open space with his things. There were many bricks. Most importantly, there was a female rubber doll, a one adult size. Those who knew, knew. Those who didn't could treat it as a toy. He placed the rubber doll aside, picked up a brick, raised a finger, took a deep breath, and poked a brick with his finger. With a plop, his finger pierced through the brick, creating a hole. Checking the skill panel, there were no changes. The skill Dragon Claw Hand proficiency wasn't listed. After thinking for a moment, he instantly understood. The first part of the manual introduced improving finger strength and dexterity. It seemed that proficiency could only be gained when practicing the moves. Thinking this, Lin Fan spread his hands, palms facing up and backs to the ground, fingers outstretched. He then took a deep breath and began testing his finger dexterity. A flick. A single finger flicked rapidly, as fast as lightning, leaving a blur. Then two fingers joined, gradually progressing to 3. But this wasn't the limit. All 5 fingers worked together, shifting from flicking to pinching, seemingly pinching air, but actually testing finger dexterity. Right hand no problem, left and right hands together. 10-finger test. He looked very seriously and earnestly. No need to practice strength and dexterity, just skip that. With my speed, even the best hands have to step aside. Let's get straight to the point. This made him realize that some people are naturally gifted and can skip the basics to get on the right track. Clearly, he was one of those gifted individuals. He opened the manual, carefully studying the moves and memorizing the contents. The catching the wind, capturing the shadow, and playing the kin techniques were all tested. As it was his first time, it was quite difficult. His movements were very unorthodox, distorted, and slow, confused to watch. But that's how it is at first. He'd get used to it. After an unknown amount of time, his skill bar finally changed. Skill, Dragon Claw Hand, 0/100. That's good. Lin Fan was overjoyed, a smile spreading across his face. This was exactly the effect he wanted, to see the results of his continuous efforts. As the skill gained proficiency, his incorrect movements would gradually be corrected, becoming more and more skillful and integrated. Next came the practical training. This is where the silicone doll's purpose came in. To be honest, in peacetime, silicone dolls were truly excellent, perfect replicas, 1-to-1 weight. Intelligence, temperature control, voice interaction, realistic fleshy feel, perfectly satisfying any requirement. You could make it resemble whoever you wanted, and it could be as big as you wanted. Lin Fan secured the silicone doll, facing it, and slowly raised his hands, fingers forming claws, aiming for the doll's body. The manual instructed that if the force wasn't enough, strike vital points. However, he believed his strength was sufficient, it didn't matter where he struck. Of course, he held back against the doll, afraid of damaging it. His current actions were merely to get used to striking a human body. After an unknown amount of time, Zhou Shichen approached from afar. He wanted to discuss Han Ping's situation with Lin Fan. Letting Han Ping hide outside wasn't a sustainable solution. They had to eliminate him so those inside the stronghold could safely hunt the alien beasts. He saw Lin Fan's figure in the distance. As he drew closer, Zhou Shichen abruptly stopped, his head tilting forward like a turtle, eyes wide with disbelief. Holy crap! In his vision, Lin Fan's hands were relentlessly grabbing at the silicone doll's flesh. This made his heart pound wildly. He felt an indescribable sensation. Pervert, Zhou Shichen took a deep breath. Calming his inner turmoil, he walked over to Lin Fan and asked weakly, "What are you doing?" Hearing his voice, Lin Fan stopped, wiped the sweat from his brow, and smiled. Practicing. Dragon Claw Hand, slightly improved, Zhou Shichen. He felt his understanding had been slightly shaken. What about Iron Head Kung Fu? I finished practicing it, then switched to another martial art. Zhou Shichen blinked. He clearly had a lot to say, but for some reason, he didn't know what to say. He sighed inwardly. Lin Fan was good in every way, but his thoughts were always unfathomable. Oh well, everyone has hobbies. Torturing silicone dolls was probably just a way to vent his emotions. I came to talk to you about something. It's about Han Ping, isn't it? You know. Lin Fan didn't speak, but smiled, his eyes flashing with wisdom, as if to say, "You underestimate me." Zhou Shichen smiled as well. He liked Lin Fan's intelligence. Talking about important matters with a smart person was never tiring. Chapter 47. This will give me a sense of accomplishment. You mean you're going to just take action and wipe out Han Ping? After Zhou Shichen explained the situation, Lin Fan said there was no need to be so tense. Han Ping's side, including himself, only consisted of 2 awakened ones, and the rest were hunters, nothing to worry about. Such arrogant and domineering words really stunned Zhou Shichen. Lin Fan said, "Yes, Yan Su and Su Cheng are already dead, why bother with anything else? Just take down Xia Hao and his group, then have Zhang Cheng and Chen Jun lead the way to Han Ping's hiding place, and wipe them out in one fell swoop. I think it's no problem." Zhou Shichen stared at Lin Fan, mouth agape. So straightforward. What's so straightforward about it? Right now, we have an absolute advantage. Why bother with him? Strategy is only used against enemies who are evenly matched or even stronger than us. When we encounter weaker enemies, we just crush them, Lin Fan said. Zhou Shichen stroked his chin, pondered for a moment, and slowly said, "Actually, I still prefer to defeat the opponent with my brain. It gives me a sense of accomplishment." Lin Fan looked at him without speaking. As things stood, he didn't take Han Ping seriously. He was strategically contemptuous of him, but tactically cautious. He would fight on sight, using all his strength, no matter how powerful Han Ping was, and completely cripple him. Then he could have a good argument with him. "How about this? You take the awakened ones from the stronghold, let Zhang Cheng lead the team, and I'll stay behind alone. That guy will definitely have some ideas. I'll kill him, then pretend to leave and come back. We'll then figure out how to torment Han Ping," Lin Fan said casually. "Sigh, you think the same way as me." "Indeed, our ways of thinking are quite similar." Zhou Shichen thought Lin Fan's idea made a lot of sense. "But leaving you in the stronghold, isn't that too risky? Should I stay and you go out?" "Whatever, I don't care," Lin Fan said casually. Zhou Shichen thought for a moment and said, "No, as everyone knows, I'm a third-tier awakened, with considerable abilities. If I stay, Xiaohao might not dare to make a move. But it's different if you stay. Although you severely injured Yan Su and Su Chang, in my opinion, Xiaohao will always think that this was a sneak attack, and a sneak attack isn't a true skill. He'll definitely take the risk." Holy crap! Lin Fan had never seen anyone praise him like this before. What did he mean by a sneak attack? What did he mean by a sneak attack not being a true skill? Forget it, he was still thinking about cultivating the dragon claw hand, so he wouldn't argue with him about this anymore. "I'll go make the arrangements first, and I'll let you know when I'm done." Zhou Shichen came and went in a hurry. Lin Fan shook his head, went to the silicone doll, and began to refresh his dragon claw hand proficiency. His 5 fingers formed a claw, grabbing at the doll's throat with lightning speed, leaving after images. He then changed his moves, attacking different parts of the body. Throat, chest, ribs, abdomen, groin. Every move, every stance, underwent a dramatic transformation with continuous effort. This was the change brought about by increased proficiency. Evening. Xiaohao beamed. "Zhou Shichen contacted me. He's taking a group of awakened to find Han Ping, and you're leading the way. This is our best opportunity." "Huh?" Zhang Cheng was bewildered. "He's taking a group of awakened to find Brother Han? Aren't you going?" Xiaohao said. "I'm not going." "Then who will he leave to guard this stronghold?" Zhang Cheng couldn't understand. He had clearly pledged his allegiance and explained the situation to him. Logically, this shouldn't be the case. Why would he take the people from the stronghold away? Wasn't that foolish? Damn. Could something unexpected happen? Had he overestimated Zhou Shichen's intelligence, and was he actually a complete idiot? If so, Zhang Cheng felt his previous actions had been too risky. He left Lin Fan behind, seemingly wanting to take him with him, but that guy seems to have some mental issues. He found a silicone doll somewhere and spends all day grabbing at it, not wanting to go anywhere else. This is our best opportunity. Xiaohao was very excited. He felt this was the perfect moment. Silicone doll? Zhang Cheng. He was a little confused. He couldn't react for a moment. Looking at Xiaohao's excited expression, Zhang Cheng could only blink helplessly, silently praying, "Brother Zhou, you'd better have some ideas." In the pit, Han Ping and the others had been hiding here. "Brother Han, do you think they can bring those guys from Miaoan Fortress over?" the only awakened one accompanying Brother Han asked. "They will come," Han Ping replied confidently. "Brother, are you so sure?" "Absolutely sure. I've had people monitoring the roads where people from Miaoan Fortress go out to hunt beasts, and so far, not a single car has passed by." "What do you think is the reason?" Hearing Han Ping's words, the awakened one suddenly realized. "I understand. Zhou Shichen knows that Brother isn't dead, and he also knows where Brother is hiding, so he told the people at the stronghold not to come out, in order to eliminate Brother first." "Yes, that's right. According to my calculations, it should only take a few days, so we're just going to wait here." "No, we'll take the initiative." "Huh? Take the initiative?" The awakened one was a little confused. Han Ping said, "There's something I lied to them about. If everything goes smoothly for them, I'll have them bring Zhou Shichen and the others here to find us. But a direct confrontation isn't a wise choice. My real purpose is to lure them away. I suspect Zhou Shichen won't completely trust them, and among those who go, there are definitely some who have betrayed me. So my goal is to outflank the fortress when most of its forces come out, then we'll reach the high ground directly." "Brother Han, that's a great idea, of course. As long as we control the fortress, even if they find out and come back, what can they do? They can't get up there." They can only watch helplessly. Han Ping had never trusted those people, so his words were a mix of truth and falsehood. After all, truth and falsehood were intertwined, and his final thoughts only existed in his mind. He would only reveal them at the most crucial moment. At home, Lin Fan checked his data panel. Level 2, 14/30, Constitution. 58.69, Agility. 46.41, Spirit. 45, Ability, Flame, White Flame, Skills, Blacksmithing, Perfect, Throwing, Perfect, Basic Knife Techniques, Perfect, Iron Head Skill, Perfect, Dragon Claw Hand, 12/100. With the increase in proficiency of Dragon Claw Hand, the three-dimensional attributes did not improve. It seems that the breathing technique inherent in Dragon Claw Hand doesn't bring any attribute boost. But being able to circulate ki to the 10 fingers, making them incredibly sharp, is not bad. Lin Fan knew that his current skill in this area was too low. He couldn't achieve anything. But he thought that as long as he persisted, when his foundation was rich enough, there would definitely be a qualitative change. Chapter 48. The crushing defeat was to be expected. The next day, outside the wall, Zhou Shichen led a group of awakened ones and hunters, preparing to go out and eliminate Han Ping. "Brother Zhou, take me with you. I want to contribute to dealing with Han Ping," Xiao Hao said sincerely. Zhou Shichen waved his hand. "No need, Zhang Cheng can lead the way. You stay here." Sigh, Xiao Hao sighed, then looked at Zhang Cheng and said seriously, "Zhang Cheng, you must be extremely careful. Han Ping is very cunning, he will definitely make arrangements in advance. Don't be careless." "I know," Zhang Cheng nodded heavily. Looking at the current situation, who could tell who was real and who was fake? Everyone's acting skills were superb, anyone could be fooled. Xiao Hao didn't find Lin Fan around, knowing that guy was probably in the corner again, violently attacking the silicone doll. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but smile inwardly. He knew that with Zhou Shichen's departure, the opportunity to occupy the fortress had arrived. "Let's go," Zhou Shichen led everyone away. Xiao Hao's eyes flickered slightly. Only after Zhou Shichen and his group disappeared from sight did a smile creep onto his lips. Everything was progressing perfectly. He then led a group of hunters away. His only goal now was to kill Lin Fan. He had thoroughly investigated the situation. All the potentially threatening awakened ones had been taken away by Zhou Shichen, therefore, killing Lin Fan would completely eliminate any instability. In the open space, Lin Fan continued his cultivation, his proficiency level rapidly increasing. The silicone doll had truly reached its maximum potential. Frankly, it had achieved a profound transformation. They're gone. Those who are meant to come will definitely be here soon. Lin Fan appeared focused, but in reality, he was preoccupied. With Zhou Shichen leaving with his men, Xiao Hao would undoubtedly make his move, a thought that didn't even need to be considered. "Lin Fan!" A furious shout rang out. Lin Fan, who was practicing his skills, stopped what he was doing upon hearing the sound. He saw Xiao Hao leading a dozen or so hunters approaching menacingly, their fierce gazes completely revealing their true colors. Xiao Hao smiled, his expression as domineering as a crooked-mouthed dragon king. "You're dead," Lin Fan said expressionlessly, drawing a short spear from his back. Without uttering a word, he flicked his wrist, and with a whoosh, the spear pierced through the air, heading straight for Xiao Hao. Xiao Hao was surprised. He hadn't expected Lin Fan to attack without a word. This was beyond his expectations. In his mind, Lin Fan should have shown shock, followed by anger, and then berate him for his intentions. He, on the other hand, would have held his head high, telling him his death was imminent. But none of that happened. Facing the oncoming short spear, Xiao Hao remained calm and dodged it. An ordinary hunter would likely be pierced through without even a chance to react. Only Xiao Hao, as an awakened, could avoid it. Even so, Xiao Hao still felt the power of the attack. It was indeed fierce, even brutal. "Is that all?" Xiao Hao said dismissively, looking smugly at Lin Fan. "I didn't expect you guys here to be so stupid. Did you really think we were willing to surrender? Wrong, terribly wrong. This fortress will be under our control, and you will be the first to die here." Hearing Xiao Hao's words, Lin Fan slowly drew his straight sword and walked unhurriedly towards him. As the distance closed, Xiao Hao didn't order the surrounding hunters to attack. Instead, he raised his hand, and a wind blade floated in his palm. "Never seen my ability, have you? The power of wind. I condense it into wind blades, killing without a trace. You can't see them with the naked eye. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Hao swung his arm, sending invisible wind blades sweeping out. Lin Fan remained calm, raising his sword and casually slashing at what was in front of him. Each slash seemed to hit something, producing dull thuds as he deflected Xiao Hao's wind blades. How could this be? Xiao Hao's expression changed drastically upon seeing this, his movements of wielding wind blades becoming even more frequent. How is this possible? How can you see the wind blades? Impossible, absolutely impossible. With a bang, the composed Lin Fan, his feet slamming into the ground with a dull thud, increased his speed, transforming into blur as he swept forward. His straight sword was engulfed in flames, a dazzling fiery blade light appearing. To Xiao Hao, his pupils saw only the brilliant firelight, nothing else. Lin Fan, having mastered the basics of swordsmanship to perfection, possessed formidable control over his blade. Each strike blocked all paths of attack, and his own three-dimensional attributes completely overwhelmed Xiao Hao. Giving him a chance to retaliate would be an insult to his own strength. In the blink of an eye, Lin Fan appeared behind Xiao Hao, who stood motionless, his back to Lin Fan. Xiao Hao slowly lowered his head, looking at his chest. With a hiss, his clothes ripped open, revealing several knife wounds on his body. Blood gushed out like a fountain, and the charred flesh sizzled and steamed. With a thud, Xiao Hao's knees buckled, and he collapsed to his knees, his head drooping, lifeless. Who? Lin Fan exhaled softly, the flames on his blade dissipating. He sheathed the sword without glancing at Xiao Hao. A true man never looks at what happens to his prey after he draws his sword, because he knows it's all over. The surrounding hunters stared in shock, completely dumbfounded. To them, this was utterly unbelievable. What are you thinking? Lin Fan looked at the surrounding hunters. The hunters stared wide-eyed. I surrender, it's not my fault, I was forced. Me too. The hunters all knelt. Why did they follow Xiao Hao? Naturally, it was because Han Ping's power always weighed heavily on their hearts. Lin Fan ignored them. Instead, he looked towards the hidden places around them. Lu Ying had drawn her bow, already aimed in this direction. Lu Shan and the other hunters were also ready. As soon as the battle broke out, they would come out and suppress this group of hunters. But when they saw Lin Fan kill Xiao Hao so easily, everyone was stunned. This was beyond their imagination. Even if there was a difference in strength between the two sides, it didn't need to be this great. It was truly an instant kill. At this moment, something happened on the outer wall. Han Ping appeared in an elevator, and the bulwark member operating the elevator had a knife placed at his neck. Under duress, he controlled the elevator to send Han Ping up. Chen Jun, who was guarding the outer wall, hadn't noticed Han Ping and his group at all. It wasn't until he saw someone climb over the wall and subdue the stronghold members that he finally realized what was happening, but it was too late. Chen Jun, who had defected to Zhou Shichen's side, took a deep breath and continued to pretend to be Han Ping's man. Ho ha! Han Ping, standing on the outer wall, laughed loudly, spreading his arms wide to take in everything before him. These are all ours now, Zhou Shichen. Did you think my purpose was really to wait for you to kill me? Wrong, terribly wrong. The ordinary survivors around him stared blankly at the unfamiliar Han Ping. They were all confused about what was going on. Chen Jun, where are they? Han Ping asked. Chen Jun replied, Brother Han, Xiao Hao took his men to the inner wall to deal with the remaining awakened. Good, all of you come with me. You watch this place, Han Ping said. Yes, Brother Han, Chen Jun responded. The other hunter also responded. Han Ping led his men towards the inner wall. The inner wall was the same as the outer wall. The only awakened one accompanying Han Ping had barbs growing on his fingers as he clawed at the wall, climbing rapidly like a spider up the inner wall. This awakened one's strength might not be much, but entering someone else's barrier was incredibly easy for him. After a long while, just as Han Ping frowned in confusion, the elevator moved. Up, led by Han Ping, they hurriedly jumped onto the elevator. Han Ping's heart was racing. Everything was going much more smoothly than he had imagined. He truly hadn't expected Zhou Shichen to actually lead so many awakened ones out. This made him wonder if Zhou Shichen was far more foolish than he thought, believing their words from the start without any suspicion. As the elevator reached the top, Han Ping saw a group of people waiting for him with smiles on their faces. The leader carried a short spear and had a knife at his waist. He was a stranger. He wasn't one of his men. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. we warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49 Zhou Shichen, I'm panicking right now. Huh? Han Ping was stunned to see Lin Fan. Where had his man gone? Upon closer inspection, he found Lin Fan lying motionless to the side. Are you Han Ping? Lin Fan looked at the manager of Baofeng's stronghold before him. He did indeed look fierce, exuding a sinister and ruthless aura. You knew I was coming, Han Ping frowned, somewhat confused by the situation. If they knew he was coming, why did Zhou Shichen leave with his men? Did they underestimate Han Ping's strength, thinking that any random awakened one could take him down? Lin Fan smiled but remained silent. Lu Shan and the other hunters standing beside Lin Fan watched Han Ping warily. They knew Han Ping's strength, he was not easy to deal with. Han Ping's gaze searched through the crowd, but he didn't find the person he was looking for. Lin Fan asked, are you looking for Yan Su, Xiao Hao, and Su Chang? Hearing Lin Fan's words, Han Ping's expression changed. What do you mean by that? Lin Fan smiled and said, what could it mean? Two are lying on the ground, one is already dead. You think your actions are perfect? Everything is just what you perceive as perfect. Alright, enough nonsense. Let's finish this quickly, I have other things to do. With that, Lin Fan slowly drew his knife, holding it horizontally in front of him. With a flick of two fingers, a crisp sound rang out, and the blade suddenly leaped up with blazing white flames. With a whoosh, the tip of the blade pointed downwards, and a gust of wind blew, causing the edges of his black cloak to billow. The power of fire, Han Ping narrowed his eyes. The guy in front of him was very confident, forcing him to take him seriously. Often, those who are confident enough are also confident in their own strength. Lin Fan stared intently at Han Ping, saying nothing more. Kill, his target was Han Ping, the other hunters would be dealt with by Lu Shan and the others. Zhou Shichen took most of the awakened with him, leaving quite a few hunters at home. If Yan Su and the others hadn't been killed, the situation would be uncertain, but for now, there was no need to worry about that. Outside the wall, Chen Jun was with another hunter. What are you looking at? This fortress belongs to Brother Han from now on. You all stay put, and as long as you behave, you'll be fine. Brother Han doesn't kill nameless nobodies, the hunter said arrogantly, head held high. The surrounding survivors' hearts pounded. They hadn't expected their fortress, where they had lived for so long, to be occupied. It sounded terrifying. Wang Dabao, the car washing expert, nervously looked towards the inner wall. He knew Brother Lin was inside, but could he stop them? Chen Jun said, discretion is the better part of valor. Behave yourselves, don't make trouble for yourselves. His gaze constantly swept towards the outside of the fortress. Would Zhou Shichen and the others ever return? Don't be stupid enough to rush towards Han Ping's side. He's already inside. Come back quickly. The hunter observed the group of emaciated, miserable survivors around him and said, look at you all, so miserable. From now on, Brother Han will manage this place. It's all about the survival of the fittest. As long as you have the ability, you can take whatever you want. Isn't that great? And it's true, what this guy said actually resonated with some of the miserable survivors. Some people in this chaotic apocalypse genuinely enjoy living like beasts. But for most survivors, they could endure hardship, but they truly longed for order. Not long after, a vehicle approached from afar. It was Zhou Shichen and his group who had left. Chen Jun's face lit up with joy. They were finally back. The vehicle stopped. Zhou Shichen and his group got out and looked up at the city wall. The elevator hadn't moved. Instead, they heard mocking voices. Ha ha ha, you can't get up there now, huh? You're too late. This fortress has already been captured by us. Get out of here, the hunter shouted. Zhou Shichen looked up, his face seemingly calm, but inwardly he was a little confused. Damn it, he thought, I let everyone out here pretending to go find Han Ping, hoping Xiao Hao would jump out on his own. But what does this mean? In just a short time, Han Ping has already arrived? Damn, that's incredibly fast. Zhang Cheng was shocked. This is a diversionary tactic. Zhou Shichen looked at Zhang Cheng and said, no, everything is under control. Huh? Zhang Cheng was surprised, not understanding what Zhou Shichen meant. What did under control mean? The only way to enter the fortress was now controlled by Han Ping's men. Getting up was impossible. Zhou Shichen remained calm. Despite his apparent composure, he was actually a little panicked inside. But in front of so many fortress members, as the manager, he had to remain calm even if the sky were to fall. Meanwhile, on the outer wall, Han Ping, wielding the hunter, recklessly clung to the edge, mocking Zhou Shichen and his men below, completely oblivious to Chen Zhen's approach. Chen Zhen, watching the hunter's protruding rear, slowly drew closer. Suddenly, Chen Zhen crouched down, grabbed the hunter's legs, and hurled him towards the wall. Ah! The hunter screamed, his face deathly pale. With no foothold, he could only plummet. Though a hunter, strong and robust, he couldn't withstand the fall from tens of meters. Bang! A dull thud echoed. Chen Zhen glanced at the surrounding survivors and ordered the elevator operators to bring Zhou Shichen and his men up. Zhou Shichen, already on the elevator, looked at Zhang Cheng, his tone calm and indifferent. Do you understand now? Understood. Zhang Cheng looked at him as if he were a powerful figure. Impressive. He had a backup plan. No one who could become a fortress manager was simple. This was masterful planning. Everything was under control. In a battle between experts, victory or defeat often hinges on a single moment. Zhang Cheng looked at the man who had fallen from the city wall. He recognized him, Han Ping's hunter, but his current state was horribly mutilated, limbs twisted, one leg bent up to his head, beyond saving. The elevator reached the top. Brother Zhou, Han Ping has reached the inner wall with his men, Chen Zhen said hurriedly. Zhou Shichen waved his hand. Don't panic, Zhang Cheng added. Yes, don't panic, everything is under Brother Zhou's control. Zhou Shichen rushed towards the inner wall, saying he wasn't panicking, but inwardly he was starting to panic, hoping Lin Fan could hold on, and that nothing bad would happen. Han Ping was truly a scoundrel. He genuinely hadn't expected such a thing to happen in such a short time. He had planned everything meticulously, but he hadn't anticipated Han Ping's move. He was also wondering how the other man had even gotten up there. The city wall was incredibly high, wasn't it? Chapter 50 Brutality. Are you a freak? Han Ping was furious, his face contorted in rage. His shirt was torn to shreds, exposing his chest. One side was intact, while the other was a bloody mess, a mangled expanse of flesh. However, the wound was healing rapidly, with new skin growing back. This was Han Ping's ability, superhuman regeneration. Any injury could be quickly healed under its influence. While not practically invincible, it was extremely effective against evenly matched opponents. Lin Fan held the piece of flesh from Han Ping, flames engulfing it and sizzling as it cooked instantly. He casually tossed it aside. A stray dog happened to pass by, its eyes widening for a mere 0.8 seconds before tucking its tail between its legs and darting away, snatching the cooked meat and disappearing from sight. Your ability doesn't seem so impressive? Facing Han Ping, a third-tier awakened being, he remained completely calm. At the same time, he noticed a major problem. Their fighting style relied primarily on strength and speed, with no apparent mastery of techniques. Lin Fan's mastery of swordsmanship allowed him to suppress Han Ping. The exquisite and domineering dragon claw hand technique further exacerbated Han Ping's predicament, leaving him struggling to defend himself. Damn it, Han Ping roared in fury, feeling humiliated, and swung his longsword fiercely at Lin Fan. Lin Fan calmly met the attack, raising his sword to parry. His mastery of swordsmanship made his movements incredibly refined. These weren't random swings, but purposeful strikes, each one putting immense pressure on Han Ping. Thud. In a brief exchange, Han Ping didn't even manage to touch Lin Fan, but Lin Fan's sword had already left a long gash on Han Ping's body. The torn flesh was charred, and the double pain contorted Han Ping's face, making him want to tear Lin Fan to pieces. The hunters Han Ping had brought were currently fighting Lu Shan and his group. Outnumbered and constantly suppressed, they were already at a disadvantage, and the battle could end at any moment. Damn it, Han Ping, clutching his wounded abdomen, his eyes growing even more ferocious, roared and charged at Lin Fan again. Lin Fan gripped the hilt of his sword, his muscles trembling. The clash of blades sent sparks flying, followed by a dull thud. With a crack, Han Ping's sword snapped in half, the broken piece flying far away and embedding itself in the ground. Han Ping stared in disbelief, then tossed a broken sword aside, panting heavily like a raging bull. He hadn't expected this outcome. Damn it. Absolutely damn it. He thought he could easily capture Miaoan Fortress, but who could have imagined this result, leaving him unable to gain any advantage over his opponent? Lin Fan flicked his wrist, his sword embedded in the ground. He raised both hands, fingers forming claws. In battle, His mastery of the dragon claw hand technique was equally impressive. Whoosh! Flames engulfed his 10 fingers. Han Ping roared, "You fucking look down on me, don't you?" "Yes." Lin Fan didn't bother with further words. He took a step forward and pounced on Han Ping. His dragon claw hand technique was continuous, shifting between feints and real attacks. One hand carried fierce power, while the other was accompanied by a gust of wind. It seemed as if his left hand was grabbing Han Ping's chest, but his right hand had already prepared a countermeasure, grabbing Han Ping's left shoulder. Han Ping had never seen any martial arts moves before. His fighting style relied on his own strength and reaction, as well as some experience he had gained from fighting strange beasts. Crack! His right hand grabbed Han Ping's shoulder, and his 5 fingers suddenly exerted force. The incredibly powerful finger force pierced through the flesh, and Han Ping showed a look of pain. At the same time, the flames covering his shoulder scorched his shoulder black. Han Ping strained his shoulder, trying to break free, but Lin Fan's move changed. With a flick of his 5 fingers, he straightened Han Ping's arm, pulling out 5 strips of meat from it. Ah! Han Ping screamed in agony. The feeling of flesh being torn apart was unbearable, blood gushing out. Meanwhile, Lin Fan used flames to cook the spicy meat strips, looked for the stray dog, found none, and tossed it aside. Although the dragon claw hand technique wasn't yet at its peak, its power was undeniable. Anyone who saw it would be terrified. It was simply terrifying. Lu Shan and the others had almost finished dealing with Han Ping, and seeing his condition, they were all shocked. Lin Fan's strength exceeded their expectations. He was incredibly powerful. Even Han Ping couldn't gain the upper hand against him, and was even made so miserable. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have found it hard to believe. The brief agony ended. Han Ping's incredible recovery was indeed remarkable, his wounds healing at an extremely fast pace. "Han Ping!" a furious voice rang out. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw Zhou Shichen appearing with his men. Lin Fan remained calm, his presence or absence making no difference, but for the other survivors, Zhou Shichen's appearance was a calming effect. "Why did you come back? I saw you leave with my own eyes." Han Ping sensed something was wrong. When facing Lin Fan, he felt that the plan to occupy the stronghold was risky, and now that Zhou Shichen was back, there was even less certainty. Zhou Shichen said, "Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? You think you predicted my thoughts, but actually Lin Fan and I predicted your predictions about us. Do you think the strategy of luring the tiger away from the mountain is very good?" Completely wrong. You are luring the tiger away from the mountain, while we are letting the wolf into the house, locking the door to beat the dog. You only thought of the 2nd level, while Lin Fan and I have already thought of the 5th level. You think that if I leave the stronghold, no one can stop you? Wrong, you are wrong again. Lin Fan is also very strong, you just don't know it. Did he really predict it? He did predict it. But according to the level of Han Ping's prediction, he was only 1 level higher, and as for the 5th level, it was utter nonsense. Lin Fan glanced at Zhou Shichen and blinked. That's not what we were talking about that day, he thought. Zhou Shichen nodded at Lin Fan, without saying a word, but it seemed to say, no need to be so direct. Who knew Han Ping would come knocking on our door? Let's just use this as a pretext, like we're on the 5th floor. Sure enough, the way everyone around Lin Fan looked at him changed. So that's why he was so calm. He really had everything under control. Sigh, Lin Fan sighed inwardly. Through their interactions, he realized that old Zhou, despite his age, seemed to enjoy showing off. "Zhang Cheng. You betrayed me," Han Ping roared. Zhang Cheng said, "Han Ping, you're utterly depraved, doing whatever you want, showing no regard for the lives of your compatriots. I've tolerated you for far too long. Do you think everyone is as twisted as you? Bah. I still have humanity," Zhou Shichen said. "Lin Fan, let's attack together and kill him." "No need, I'll handle it." Lin Fan wanted to test his dragon claw hand technique on Han Ping. Real combat and fighting a silicone doll are two different things, especially since Han Ping is so resilient. It's rare to encounter someone like that. Then be careful, Zhou Shichen thought for a moment and decided to leave the opportunity to Lin Fan. After all, he had really shown off just now. He couldn't keep all the credit for himself. He had to leave some for others. He also wanted to see Lin Fan's strength. He knew he was strong, but he didn't know exactly how strong. Okay, Lin Fan nodded, leaping forward, his hands raining down on Han Ping like a storm. Zhou Shichen stared intently, seeing Lin Fan's hands form claws. He suddenly recalled the brutality he had inflicted on the silicone doll, and then, as if struck by a thought, looked towards Han Ping's chest. Sure enough, just as he suspected, the chest wound was gruesome. The little head seemed to have been completely torn away. Han Ping was now retreating steadily, his steps faltering, barely managing to dodge the attacks with his reflexes. However, facing the dense barrage of dragon claws, Han Ping's injuries multiplied. Each strike tore flesh from his body. Those around gasped in horror, exclaiming how terrifying it was. Just thinking about the feeling of flesh being ripped away sent chills down their spines, making their hair stand on end. Lin Fan seized the opportunity, grabbing towards Han Ping's throat with incredibly powerful force. If caught, the throat would be shattered, leaving a gaping hole. Han Ping's hair stood on end. He raised his hand to defend himself, trying to protect his throat, but realized something was wrong. Lin Fan smiled, his right hand grabbing Han Ping's waist. With a crack, his ribs broke, and large chunks of flesh were torn away. Han Ping staggered back, cold sweat pouring down his forehead, his face contorted in pain. Even with his superhuman regenerative abilities, he couldn't withstand such damage. But before he could even catch his breath, Lin Fan was already upon him, unleashing the 36 moves of the Dragon Claw Hand in unison. Arms, abdomen, chest, shoulders, thighs, all were severely injured, turning Han Ping's composure into panic. He flailed his arms and legs wildly, unable to touch Lin Fan at all. Suddenly, Lin Fan appeared behind Han Ping, his 10 fingers piercing Han Ping's spinal groove. With a sickening thud, the sound of flesh being pierced echoed, and Han Ping screamed in agony. But this was not the end. Lin Fan used both hands simultaneously, tearing open Han Ping's back, ripping open flesh to expose his white cervical vertebrae. The sheer brutality of his methods was enough to terrify anyone who witnessed it. But Lin Fan wouldn't give him a chance. 3 fingers struck, grabbing a section of the cervical vertebrae. A cracking sound followed. Han Ping finally collapsed, revealing the injuries on his back. "Let me see how he recovers," Lin Fan said softly, then looked up at the crowd. They stared in disbelief, their faces pale. He smiled, extending a gesture of goodwill. Zhou Shichen's heart pounded uncontrollably. So terrifying, so ruthless. This method, this situation, it almost made him wet himself. And it wasn't just Zhou Shichen. Everyone present was the same. The way they looked at Lin Fan changed. Zhang Chang thought inwardly, Yansu was lucky, even his mockery only resulted in him lying on his back. If it were like Han Ping, it would be terrifying. Lin Fan knew that after this incident, he had truly stood up again. Rumors about him within the fortress will continue to circulate. Outstanding people always generate so much discussion. Thank you to Porco Fan, and the reader who is waiting for your donations. Many thanks. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.